Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is the national educator for Flora. Flora, also in Germany called Salus House, Health House, a natural food supplement company that's been around since the early part of the 20th century. Alberto, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Nice to be here with you once more.
Thank you. And you're going to be have a monthly spot. Flora is going to have a monthly spot here on the Here's to Your Health show. And we do different topics. And Flora has a variety of, in my opinion, very important products that have great science behind them and a long track record. So today we're going to do detoxification.
We are going to talk about detoxification, yes.
It's a popular subject, detoxification. Please give me a definition.
That's actually a really good question, and it has to do with why it's so popular, because I think there is some misconceptions about what detoxification is. There are a lot of companies that advertise cleanses, and a lot of them are colon cleanses, laxative kind of products, as detox.
Right.
And certainly avoiding the colon is an important part of detoxification, getting rid of toxins from the body and waste. But detoxification is actually an ongoing bodily process that occurs in order to identify, gather, and remove chemical waste and toxins from the body. And detoxification actually occurs 24/7. It never stops.
Right.
And there is a whole group of organ systems that includes our circulatory system, the lymphatic system, which is part of the immune system, as well as the skin and the lungs, the kidneys, the colon, and the liver. And so this system is working continuously to make sure that we can gather and remove the chemical waste before it builds up in our body and starts harming cells and causing health problems.
Right. And so the idea of cleansing the bowel, in other words, that's important, but that's just part of the picture.
That is part of the picture, and unfortunately, a lot of the products that you see out there are primarily focused on avoiding the colon, and I think that those products are focused and meant for people that are constipated, which is, it's an unfortunate situation, and those people need some support, and they do need to get the waste out before they become toxic. But people need to understand that detoxification does not have to include diarrhea.
Right.
So there's a misconception out there that you need diarrhea to detoxify. Of course, you don't need that, right? If you take the right phytonutrients, which of course are in many different type of herbs, then you can actually support the proper function of the intestinal tract, and then you can support the function of the liver and the kidneys and the blood purification, all as your body is trying to do it its own. Right, because the body is going to do it whether you're going to help it or not. And you can do that by taking the right phytonutrients without having to take a harsh laxative type products.
Now, one of the products you have there is called Swedish Bitters, which is a product, we were chatting about it before we went on the air. Now, tell me I think most people listening to this broadcast, even people who really kind of know the subject, will think, oh, Swedish Bitters, what is that?
Yeah, I think that Americans, they don't really like bitter foods much, but bitters are very important for our overall digestion, and I can't tell people enough, if you have indigestion and heartburn and bloating, bitters are one of the best things that you could use. I know there's enzymes and probiotics and so on, but bitters work with your own body. So bitters are usually considered to be aperitifs, something that you would consume before you have a meal, an appetizer. Of course, in the western part of the world, an appetizer is something that's usually deep fried and that stops digestion, right?
Right, that's right.
But the definition of an aperitif is something that stimulates the digestive system. So what bitters do is they actually stimulate the taste buds in the tongue of the mouth, and that sends a message to the middle of the brain called the medulla, and that then activates the contraction of our digestive system. So you start to stimulate bile flow and hydrochloric acid and enzymes and all of these fluids that are going to help you digest the food. That's why it's called an aperitif, an appetizer. Well, one of the things is the bile flow. So bile is actually made in our liver from cholesterol, and then it's stored in the gallbladder, and when we eat fat, the gallbladder squeezes and it goes into the small intestine and helps break down the fat for us. So it's really important for fat digestion.
Right.
Well, one of the things that the liver does, the liver is really busy filtering toxins and enzymatically trying to deactivate them so they don't harm our cells in our body. Okay, so the liver's always doing this. And one of the things that the liver does is it uses the bile, which it is making in itself, and it can dump some of the toxins into the bile, and the bile works as the carrier to carry the toxins out of the liver and down into the intestines. You see? So the more bile you stimulate, you can then support liver detoxification. And that's really important.
Yes.
Especially with the fat-soluble toxins, which are the ones that are difficult for the body to get rid of.
So you're saying that the Swedish bitters not only improves digestion, but aids the proper functioning of the liver.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, absolutely, really very important. And so there's different strengths of them, and Swedish bitters date back to the Greeks. This is actually a very, very old formula, and the only reason why they're called...
Really? They really think this is really 1,000 or more years old? They really kind of...
Yes, they really do, because they actually started to call them Swedish bitters in the 1800s, I believe, when a Swedish doctor basically confirmed the healing properties of the formula. But the formula actually dates back to the Greeks.
Oh,
yeah, so
that's great.
Yeah, talk about
really.
it. Yeah, a traditional formula, right? Actually, all of these are traditional formulas. So, you can use them and to really support liver detoxification. And there's different strengths. This one is very powerful. So this would be a product that you would normally say dilute in a little bit of warm water, or just a room temperature water, or maybe even put in a little bit of tea, like ginger tea would be great, because it's very strong.
Oh, no, so, excuse me, Alberto. So if I was to use this to improve digestion, do I use like a little half a teaspoon in water before I begin eating my meal?
That is correct. Yes. And if you go to Europe, in some places like Germany and Switzerland, when you open a menu in most restaurants, the first page says aperitifs, and there's probably 10 different choices of your aperitif, and none of it is food. They're all shots of some sort of bitter formula, and that's your appetizer. So you just take it before your meal, and then your body is ready with all the digestive fluids to actually consume your main meal. Actually that was sort of the whole reason behind us consuming a salad before a meal. The salad is supposed to have some bitter greens.
Right.
And so you consume the bitter greens, and then you have your meal. But unfortunately, we've taken most of our bitter greens out of our salads, and then we put sweet dressing on top of that to
people like sweet.
Further hide. Oh yeah, we love sweet. There's 4 taste buds, right? Master taste buds. We like to overstimulate 2 of them, the sweet and the salt. But there's also the bitter and the sour. And if you really think about it, there's so many different types of foods that there could be thousands and thousands of bitters, of taste buds, right? Different taste buds. But there's really only 4. So there must be pretty important.
What are the 4?
The salt, sweet, bitter, and sour.
Okay.
Those are the 4. In some parts of the world, they add astringent, which is a tannin. And it's kind of like what you find in red wine or tea. That tannin, it's some countries in Asia consider that the 5th taste bud. But in any case, so those 4 are the master taste buds. So the bitters, they must be pretty important. We're innately are supposed to consume bitter foods, and that's going to help our digestive system, and that's going to help our liver detoxification. So in some places in the world, they'll do some bitter food, salad, or a bitter shot before every single meal. Here, we do fried food before every meal.
Unfortunately, a lot of people do, but really people are in general starting to pay much more attention. Again, we were chatting about this before the show. I think people are really starting to realize, okay, it was almost like smoking in the 1950s. By the mid-1960s, people said, oh yeah, smoking, probably not a good thing. It took 30, 40 years before the amount cigarette smokers have fallen from as much as 40%, I think, or 43%, down to about 18%. So that's a huge victory. It's a huge change for the better. It's not 100%, but things take a long time.
You're right. And some people realize that there's a lot of value, especially health-wise, in different types of foods, especially bitter foods. This is a product that we make in Germany called Gelixier, and it's actually what I would call a mild bitter. So for
really?
people that, they're just like, they'll take a bitter and they're like, oh, this tastes bad. For those people, this would be a great product to start them on, Gelixier, because it's mild, it's got some artichoke, it's got some aloe, it's got some thistle, and it's nowhere as near as pungent and as hard as this
bitters,
one.
I see.
Yeah, it is. They're both Swedish bitters, but this would be a great product to start people on. People that just want to try some bitters for their digestion. Is still effective, but it's just not as strong a bitter taste. Right. And this one would be something you would move on from this. And then this, like, after you've taken the bitter for a while, you actually take it straight, because you actually, because it's an innate taste for us, we like it. And one of the interesting things that happens is you start kind of craving bitter foods, because that's really important for your health. It's kind of your brain saying, hey, eat some bitter foods. This is good for your liver. It's good for your digestion. And you actually start kind of wanting to consume more bitter foods, and you actually start losing cravings for sweets.
Oh, that's very nice to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you a question about the Swedish bitters and the Gelixier. So on Swedish bitters, you have one type without alcohol and one with alcohol.
Yes.
Now, if a person has health problems, say digestive problems, or even blood sugar problems of any type, or heart problems, is it more desirable to use the bitters without alcohol, or is the amount of alcohol, in your opinion, not an issue for most of the patients?
Traditionally, alcohol is probably the best preservative, or the best way to preserve herbs.
True. No, I'm agreeing with that.
Yeah.
But what about from the perspective of the patient?
Yeah. So I think that the upside is much higher or bigger than the little bit of alcohol you're going to consume. But nonetheless, the reason why we saw that there was a need to produce a product without alcohol is for those individuals that maybe their liver is not very healthy,
right,
and the alcohol is going to add a little bit more burden to the...
It could it not to some people? Right.
Sure, even if it's a small amount. Right. People have different degrees of health status, and for some people, the liver is having a hard time. You're trying to help the liver with the herb, so why add the alcohol in those situations, right? And then certainly you're going to have younger people as well, and some people just don't like to drink alcohol at all, no matter how much it is, even if it's just a half a teaspoon. So I think that there is a market for using a product that doesn't contain alcohol, and especially for those people that are dealing with some kind of liver issue.
Now, today, probiotics are very popular, and Flora has some excellent probiotic formulations. And it's not that Swedish bitters or digestive, these are not the same as probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Are they interrelated? Do I need both? How can I use them?
Yes. Well, we have one body, and it's all interrelated. Mm-hmm. So your liver, it works along with your intestinal tract. And really, they work together in a great deal, more than people probably think. So the liver's function influences the whole digestive process in many ways than one. So I think that they're always interrelated. But probiotics, they're doing something very different than the liver is. The liver is our primary organ of digestive process. It's producing glucose for us for energy, and denaturing toxins so they don't harm us. They're doing all kinds of different things. Very important, right? Our metabolic organ. What the probiotics are doing is that they are establishing an environment in our intestinal tract that's healthy for us. They're fighting off pathogenic bacteria and putrefactive bacteria that's decaying things in the intestinal tract. All of the bad yeasts, the candida yeast, they are fighting those fights for us, and they are protecting our intestinal tract, and they're protecting our body against infections and disease by microorganisms. And in addition to that, they will help us digest foods. For example, there are some probiotics that are known to produce lactase. Lactase is the enzyme that breaks down lactose in milk. Right. So obviously there are about 80% of Americans, adults, that are lactose intolerant. We don't have the enzyme to break down milk. And there are some probiotics that can break down the lactose for us. In doing so, they produce lactic acid from the lactose, and the lactic acid creates an environment in our intestinal tract that the bad bacteria don't like. Gotcha. You see? Gotcha. And in doing so, they are protecting us from keeping those bad bacteria from growing out of control. And they also can help actually maintain the lining of the intestinal tract healthy. In other words, they can help you with irritated bowel and things like leaky gut, ulcers, and those kinds of things. The bacteria can produce...
The probiotics.
Yeah, the probiotics can produce actual organic compounds that then the cells can use to heal themselves. Okay, short-chain fatty acids they'll use for fluids. And in some cases, they are known to produce some vitamins. Like probiotics are known to produce B vitamins. And there is a theory that we used to produce enough B12, which we don't need a whole lot of. We need about 125 micrograms. It's enough to put in a pin, a head of a pin. Yeah. There's a theory that we used to produce enough B12 from the bacteria in the water. Before we started chlorinating and fluorinating water, right? And so you can actually take probiotics and it will help you produce B12.
I see.
And that's really important for vegetarians and vegans.
Yes.
And some vegetarians and vegans are having a hard time getting B12 in the diet because it primarily, in the American diet, primarily comes from animal type foods. And so if you don't have enough B12, you have a hard time absorbing iron.
Right. Hold that thought. A little station identification. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. My guest is Alberto Trujillo, the educator for Flora, Flora, an excellent supplement house sold in the United States and throughout Europe and worldwide. Now, in passing, Alberto, you mentioned that you felt that 80% of the American population is sensitive and or allergic to cow's milk. Is that really... Now, that seems, that's a strong statement. Do you really feel that, indeed, most Americans do very poorly on cow's milk products?
I have read that up in the 80 percentiles, adult Americans can't digest lactose because we lose the ability, the enzyme, to break down the lactose, which is the lactase in the milk. And I think that is a genetic situation because we're not supposed to be breastfeeding after a certain age, and so our body doesn't necessarily need that enzyme to break down the milk from our mom's breast milk. And so genetically, I think most Americans don't have that enzyme anymore, and so they don't break down milk products very well. So I don't know, it could be milk. Obviously, we're the only species to really ever consume milk from another species' breast milk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it isn't necessarily something that in nature maybe we were supposed to be doing. And so if you're not supposed to be breastfeeding, you don't need that enzyme any longer. Of course, we do consume a good amount of cow milk products.
And people do. I see many people who have all sorts of colds and flu and sinus headache and postnasal drip. If they stop using all cow's milk products, in about a month, they think, gee, I feel remarkably better. That was an easy cure, wasn't it? The problem wasn't me structurally. The problem was I'm sensitive and or allergic to cow's milk. And when I stop the cow's milk, the symptoms of gas and bloating and your skin breaks out and the headaches, they go away.
Yeah, and I've read several documents where it says that up to 80% of people. And I've also read that the ability to digest cow's milk in adulthood is actually a gene mutation. So it's not normal, actually. And in some generations and areas in the world where perhaps they've been consuming cow's milk longer periods of time, they may have that mutation and they are better able to digest cow's milk later on in adulthood. Whereas, in this part of the world, our society is not quite as old, and so most of Americans are actually having a hard time digesting cow's milk.
And what about, since we're on this conversation about milks, which people enjoy using milks and cheeses, is goat milk and sheep milk, cheeses and milks, in your opinion, safer and desirable?
It's my understanding that goat's milk is easier for us to break down, and that it produces less mucus and less inflammation in our bodies. And so for many people, that is a better option. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, you have another product here today on display called Fluorescence. Now, Fluorescence has a long history, and it also happens to be, I think, in the wellness profession, natural foods profession, one of the most important products. I've always been a terribly big fan of it, and I know people who have been not feeling well, had real severe health problems, using Fluorescence very successfully.
Yeah, I would say that Fluorescence is one of the most meaningful products that this industry has ever had. It has made a tangible difference in people throughout the years, and thousands of people have used Fluorescence around the world over the years. It's a Native American formula, and it's a whole body detoxification formula. Basically, what it does is it has 8 herbs that are able to support the body's ability to identify and remove sick cells, microorganisms like bacteria and viruses. And basically, the body has the system to do that, and it includes the same system I described earlier. It includes your lymphatic system, which includes your immune system, and the blood purification, the liver, the kidneys, the skin, the colon, and the lungs. And it's really, when I think about this product, I think, wow, the native Ojibwe people really understood their herbs, and they really understood the body when they put those herbs together, because there are the bitter herbs that kind of help the liver. There are things like Turkish rhubarb. Rhubarb, we know rhubarb is in this bitter, and it's in this product. Rhubarb, we know people use that for digestion because there's a nutrient in rhubarb that actually helps with the contractions of the intestinal tract. The same compound you find in things like aloe. There's aloe in here too. And so there's great digestive herbs in some of these products. But the rhubarb really helps with the intestinal tract. There are herbs in here, especially the ones that help the blood purification. Now, there are these immune cells called macrophages. I don't know if you've heard of that term.
Uh-huh.
Macrophage literally means big eater. Macro is large, micro small, and phage is in Greek is to engulf something, to digest something. So macrophage is big digester. So we have these macrophages stationed in different parts of our body, sort of like military stations across the U.S. And when they get a signal from the antibodies can't deal with something, then they come out and they will basically engulf these sick cells, old cells, damaged cells, bacteria, viruses, and they'll break them down with enzymes. And then the debris gets let out, and that now has to get flushed out through your kidneys and the liver and the colon. But there are 5 herbs in Fluorescence that stimulate those macrophages, and we had tested. So we know that they test what's called phagocytic activity. That's the activity of digesting and engulfing something by our immune system, and we can see in the graphs, that the activity goes up. And so the burdock, the red clover, the Turkish rhubarb, the sheep sorrel, and the one that activates them the most is the watercress.
Really?
Watercress? Yeah, watercress is great. I tell people, you gotta eat some watercress. Put it in your salads. It's a great little green that kind of looks like a little spinach, and it's probably the best green, in my opinion, you can eat. I know that there's a lot of votes out there for broccoli, but there's a very interesting thing. Broccoli has these particular phytonutrients called indoles that some people say have great protective properties, in our body. That they'll even say that it might be anti-cancer and all of this.
Yes, that's you're saying that. Yes.
Actually, watercress has the same indoles as broccoli. So
I did not
really,
know that.
yeah, it's a great food. And it tastes really peppery.
Yeah,
It makes
it's
your
good.
salads great taste great. So I really encourage people to try and get some watercress and eat it in their foods because it'll be great for their blood purification, great for their immune system. So and great for the liver as well because it's got some bitter properties.
Now, you also have in the fluorescence red clover. Now, red clover is a terribly important medicinal herb. And how is it used in your formula?
In our formula, it's used to support the macrophage activity because it's one of those 5 herbs, and so it'll help activate those scavenger immune cells. And it's used as a blood purifier, and it's also known to be one of the diaphoretic herbs. Diaphoretic herbs help skin detoxification, and so it's known to be one of the diaphoretic herbs. What they do is they actually help our pores relax, and they actually use them to reduce fevers. So when we have a fever, the body sweats so that you get the surface of the skin wet, and then the wind hits you, and that's what cools your body down.
Right.
So they will use diaphoretic herbs to help the pores relax, and you can perspire more easily and then cool the body down faster. In this case, when you're basically not having a fever, they will still help relax pores and facilitate perspiration. If you go exercise and do a little bit of walking, some meditations and yoga, go into a sweat lodge, and then that will help skin detoxification. So the red clover is used in those different manners. And then finally, there's the same herbs that help the macrophages help the lungs, because the lungs are kind of like the outside of our body. Sort of anything that happens to be in front of your face, you get to inhale. Right? Very little filtering.
Right.
And so the lung cells are some of those cells that are continuously being harmed with caustic fumes. Imagine when you're at the gas station and so on. And so those cells need to be removed continuously, and then new cells replace them so that you don't have chronic lung inflammation. And the cells in our bodies that are responsible for moving the harmed cells in the lungs are the macrophages.
I see.
So those same 5 herbs will support the burdock, the red clover, the sheep sorrel, Turkish rhubarb, and the watercress will support the lung removal of the harmed cells.
Now, if I was to use the fluorescence, because it's used for a number of health conditions, so let's say a person has a very severe immune problem, they really are not feeling very well. How could they use the fluorescence successfully?
Well, we normally recommend that you always start with the lowest dose, which is 1 ounce diluted in equal or twice the amount of warm water. And you want to take it on an empty stomach, and you want to take it usually like a tea, sip it slowly so you stimulate those taste buds and the tongue so that you can get that activation of all of the different systems. And then you build up to 2 ounces from 1 ounce once or twice a day. And then once you're doing 2 ounces once a day, you can build up to 2 ounces twice a day. So now you're gone from 1 ounce to 4 ounces. And then you do that once or twice a day. And that's a good way to do the fluorescence.
On an empty stomach.
On an empty stomach, because you have less competition for absorption of the phytonutrients.
And I have to, after I open that fluorescence, I have to keep it in the refrigerator.
Yes, there's no preservatives in any of the products that we manufacture. So it's really important to put them in the refrigerator, and also try not to consume the products from the bottles themselves, because you'll introduce bacteria and then they'll start to ferment.
Right. Now, your fluorescence, because it's such a popular formulation, but your fluorescence, you're involved with Elaine Alexander. You pay royalties to her estate. She was help doctor, was Dr. Birch?
Dr. Brush, yeah.
Yes, Brush. Brush?
Brush. Yeah.
She helped promote this fluorescence, helped revive it in the 60s and 70s, correct?
That's correct. She's the one that after Reen Case, which was the nurse in Canada that really brought the SCIAC formula into light. And then Reen Case partnered with Dr. Charles Brush in Massachusetts. He, at the time, was JFK's doctor. And they partnered for about 19 years, between 1958 to about 1977. I believe she passed in 78. And so over those 19 years or so, they worked together. And when she passed away, Elaine Alexander had a radio talk show, much like you, in Canada called Keeping Hope Alive. And he was interviewed by her, a series of 3 different interviews. And that's when, everything became really popular. And so they were having people from all over the world wanting to get some of the tea. And so they came to Flora, and the owner of Flora, Thomas Greither, he signed a contract with them to manufacture the tea for them. And so we've been doing it ever since. And at the time, we agreed to change the name from Essiac to Fluorescence. And we pay royalties every bottle and box that we sell.
And how do you manufacture that in your facility? And where's your facility?
Our facility is in Linden, Washington. It's at the very, very northwest corner of the U.S. It's bordering Canada. We're about 10 minutes from the border. And we have a state-of-the-art facility there. Actually, Thomas bought a regular dairy farm because Linden, Washington is an old Dutch dairy farming town. There's a lot of dairies there. And he bought a dairy farm and converted to organic farm. And that's where we manufacture the Fluorescence today.
That's great. Well, Alberto, it's great having you on the show. Very authoritative information. Where can we get more information about Flora?
At florahealth.com.
Florahealth.com.
Yeah, www.florahealth.com.
And it's sold in all the natural food stores nationwide.
Across the country and in many other countries as well.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, Alberto, thank you very much for being a guest
You're
today.
welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is a repeat guest, Dr. Horst Krupp, PhD, University of Heidelberg, who has developed what he calls sin-free sugar, a non-artificial sweetener that he is very proud of. Dr. Krupp, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you to invite me back.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And so, for my listeners, let's start right out. This is a sweetening item.
Yes.
But it's not a chemicalized product.
There's no chemical inside. It's all these components are found in nature and in our body also. And it has a perfect taste, no aftertaste, no artificial taste. Tastes just like table sugar, but is less sweet, a little bit.
And again, your background, you have a PhD in what subject?
I'm a physicist, a health physicist, and a nutritionalist.
Okay.
And a mineralogist on top of this.
Okay, that's very good. And one of the reasons that you thought about this product, a sweetening item that was not a chemicalized product, because at a certain point in your life, you suddenly discovered you had diabetes, which caught you by surprise.
It caught me totally by surprise. And then I decided, with my background, I studied diabetes. And believe it or not, after 3 months, I was cured. Easy.
Now, last time you were on, I did tease you about this a little bit. Were you very much surprised, based on your science background, and probably most of your buddies, your friends, your colleagues would have told you that once you become diabetic, that's just it, that, there's no real answer?
That is what I heard, even from the medical professors which diagnosed me. Mm-hmm. They said you have to live with it till the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to live with it.
And so when in a period of 3 months, which is a pretty short amount of time, you were no longer diabetic, what did you feel and what did your colleagues say to you?
Actually, at that time, I took chromium picolinate, that was 1994, and flaxseed oil. And it helped, together with my diet changes. Mm-hmm. And the professor told me, I can't believe it. But he had to believe it. And then, believe it or not, the whole clinic ordered through me chromium picolinate to send to Germany.
Well, very good. You did a good thing. Yeah, chromium picolinate is a very nice, important trace mineral that now enjoys a certain mainstream status. It really started to show up in the early 90s. Before that, I don't remember people really using it.
It showed up around 1993 to 1994.
Yes. Murray Susser, the MD, who's been on this show, wrote a very good book on hyperglycemia. He talked about chromium picolinate, and when his book was published in 1991, that was one of the premier books, as I remember, on the subject.
Yeah, but at that time already, Dr. Whittaker had written a book called Reverse Diabetes. And that is a book where I learned a lot from, and I went to lectures. And not long later, I gave diabetic lectures in Germany.
Well, that's good. Well, first-person experience, you really can't beat it. There's certainly a place for it. Now, what is in the sin-free sugar? Can you mention the ingredients to us?
We have a natural sugar, which is the second most abundant sugar, called xylose. We have erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol. And we have basically a kind of a fiber in it.
Well, that seems simple enough. How many years did it take you to develop that formulation?
Not so long. It was just a matter of sitting down and bring the components into the right perspective.
So I can put the sin-free sugar in tea, or I put it on oatmeal. Is that how I use it?
You put it everywhere. You can bake with it, actually better than with normal table sugar. It browns very well. It's called the Maillard reaction. And on top of that, it is not digestible by your body. So you can use it everywhere, and your body cannot use it for energy.
I see.
As you eat it, it will leave your body.
Wow. And now that's a patented product?
The mixture is patented.
And how long is it being sold here in the United States?
Since 6 months now.
6 months?
Mm-hmm.
And is it, natural food stores and grocery stores around the country?
You can find it in Food for Less. You can find it in Sprouts. You can find it in Albertsons, Arizona, and Albertsons, California.
Okay, those are important chains. And so the response has been good to the product.
It's starting to be good. In the beginning, people didn't believe it.
Right.
But I have never heard a negative comment. Many people tell me even that it's less sweet than table sugar. We like that. The problem with table sugar is that when your body uses it, your body needs a glucose. So it splits the disaccharide, table sugar, into 2 monosaccharides, which is glucose and fructose. And then, alas, you have nothing but high fructose corn syrup in your body.
Right. Which I think many people today recognize it's not a good idea. And I was chatting with a friend earlier, and we were talking about many people now recognize that processed sugar is really a health risk. And it's something that wasn't really talked about this way even 5 years ago.
Yeah, that has a reason. We take more and more of this table sugar with fructose into our body. And meanwhile, in America, about 80% of the population are in syndrome X to diabetes. Syndrome X is a pre-diabetic state.
What percentage of the American population?
80%.
Wow.
And the bad thing is, only a few are diagnosed with diabetes type 2. But diabetes type 2 starts very early. Sometimes it takes 20, 30 years to develop, to be developed to the blown up final stage. Mm-hmm. And I compare it to a pregnancy. A woman is not pregnant at birth.
Right. No, not usually.
Long before, in the beginning, the woman doesn't even know. Same with diabetics.
All right, that's an interesting perspective. Is the sin-free sugar, you said, less sweet, so I use a little bit more than
You can use a little bit more. For example, table sugar has a glycemic load, and we speak a little bit later about it, a glycemic load of 7. This sugar has a glycemic load of 0. Glycemic load of 7 for 10 grams of sugar. Mm-hmm. Most sodas have between 30 and 40 grams of sugar.
Wow.
So you have a glycemic load of 21 to 30 when you take much sugar. Your total glycemic load points when you are diabetic or you are overweight and want to lose weight cannot overpass 80. So with 100 grams of sugar, which is 70, you have already the 80 points almost. Right. So with 100 grams of sugar, you blow it. Your blood sugar goes high, the pancreas pumps out ample amount of insulin, which converts the blood glucose into fat and stores it. Your sugar goes down and you get hungry and you get craving for something sweet. And you cannot resist.
Right. Right. It's a vicious cycle. Eating sugar creates the use of wanting the desire for more sugar.
Yeah, it leads into a sugar roller coaster. Up and down, up and down.
Right.
And that is disastrous for your body.
Would you say that mainstream healthcare accepts that position now?
No, they don't. You can go out and find many doctors still telling you diabetes type 2 is not curable. But the point is, it is curable, and it's not even a sickness of blood sugar. It is a sickness of your fat metabolism. Your body, your metabolism cannot process fats properly. That's a problem a diabetic type 2 has. That's also the reason why diabetic type 2 puts on weight, while the diabetic type 1 loses weight.
But of course, diabetic type 1 is considered just less than 5% of all diabetics are type 1, correct?
Much less.
Yeah.
But the number of diabetics type 1, the percentage number, has not grown since 1900. 1900, we had 0.03% of the population diabetics, and now it's up to 80%.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
It's all connected to the invention of the fridge, because our ancestors had to eat what the season provides, and they had to eat what they got. And we go to a supermarket, we buy only what we like. And so we are very
That's true. It's
one-sided with our food, and that's a disaster for our body, because mankind is not developed that way.
That is an interesting point. Refrigeration has not helped some people. Now you have it in packets. Is it available it's all powder now, right? All this in-fish sugar is powder.
Is like table sugar, not a bit more than a powder. It's a little bit crystalline, and we have it in 10 ounce and 16 ounce in packets, and we have it in 40 and 80 sachets. These are the sachets. They have each 5 grams, and they have absolutely. One seems to be open.
No, it seems fine.
And these 5 grams are sufficient to sweet a coffee very well.
And these are some new products that you have worked on. These are your formulations?
It's all my formulation.
Well, what about this one closest to me? This says, this doesn't pull any punches. It says the ultimate diabetic formulation.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say that, really? Are you allowed?
In America, not, but it goes to other countries.
Okay, that's very fair.
Sell
I'm
this
teasing you in a nice way, because obviously I agree with what you're saying, but you and I both want to stay out of jail here in the United States.
No, we don't want to go into jail, but this is meant for Vietnam.
All right. And could you tell me what the formulation is?
The formulation works very well, and especially one component in it prevents diabetic damage, sugar damage, or glycation. 3 pathways of glycation are blocked with one of the components. And there is many insulin-like components in, so your body needs much less insulin when this is taken. And that relieves the pancreas, and that keeps your pancreas healthy. When you have a car and you drive on the freeway overspeed all the time, you cannot be astonished when your engine breaks down.
This is true.
And that applies to humans as well with sugar.
Alrighty. Well, I'm happy to see that other countries you can make these nice claims. And as a person who's listening in Vietnam, because we're internet, could they take one with each meal?
You take it in front of a meal. Actually, the best in the morning before breakfast.
Alrighty.
2 of those when you are not fully blown diabetic. 2 in the morning, and 2 also before dinner when you are full blown diabetic. These formulas will come to the American market too. This is a high blood pressure formulation.
HBP, high blood pressure formulation, okay. Mm-hmm.
Which reduces blood pressure very easily. I learned when I was diabetic in 1994 that I had a blood pressure of 145 to 95. 3 months later, when the diabetes had said bye-bye to me, I was at 117 to 77, and that's what I still am.
Right. So you were as high as 140.
145.
And now it came to 117 in 3 months.
Yes.
Well, I think people listening to the broadcast today would think, wow, that was successful in 3 months. A food perspective, a food therapy for something as serious as diabetes, and in 3 months, that's very impressive.
But you have to be very careful with your food. And I come to this in a moment.
Yes.
Is that visible like this?
Not too much, really.
Not too much.
Not too much, no.
This is a glycemic index range, a glycemic load range, and a total glycemic load per day.
Okay, so we're chatting with the PhD, Dr. Horst Krupp. Now talking about the glycemic index and the glycemic load. So for my listeners who know the subject a little bit, what's the difference between glycemic index and glycemic load?
Glycemic index is a constant which relies exactly to the food item you consume. Mm-hmm. Independent how much you consume, the glycemic index stays the same. But the glycemic load has to do with how much of that glycemic food product you eat. The more you eat, the higher your blood sugar will be. Mm-hmm. And that is given by the glycemic load figure. And when you are diabetic and when you are overweight and you really want to lose your ballast, mm-hmm. Right. Then you have to be very careful how many glycemic load points you collect. And for example,
Well, that was very succinct and right. So in other words, some people have been told who are diabetic, oh no, you can't eat carrots. But you're saying, no, you could eat a small amount of carrots. You just don't want to eat 7 carrots. Is that it?
When you look at the table, the carrots are very much on top.
They seem to be on top. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
They say glycemic index 92.
Go over and look at the load.
Yeah, 5.
5. And how many grams you eat for 5 load?
6 grams.
No,
that's carbohydrate. I'm sorry. 80 grams.
80 grams.
So you're saying
this carrots 80 grams is nothing.
Is nothing, right? Is nothing.
When you eat 10 carrots, and you eat 400 grams, then you have 5 times more. Then you have already 25 points. The more you eat, the more points you collect.
Right.
And there's a lot on this table with 0 load, and you can eat as much as you want. Our sugar has 0 load.
0, right.
Table sugar, as I said, has 7. 10 grams have 7 load points. Ours has 0. 100 grams is 70. You have already the daily dose consumed. And when you eat more, it will be all going into blood sugar, and then it will be converted to fat, and you find it back where you don't want it.
I got you. Okay, thank you. Very, very nicely, very clear. Thank you for telling my audience and to myself. Well, a lot of things here, like, for example, dates. Everyone likes dates. I certainly do. But they can throw your sugar out of balance, can't they? Dates.
You can only eat 1 date a day.
Oh, I can't do that, really. I unfortunately no.
Yeah, you have a figure you can do it, but look at some of those monsters out there, and then you see they cannot do it.
Well, I like dates, but I know it seems so easy to overeat on dates. What can I say, So I certainly do it.
I want to mention that this index with the load tables and the recommendations how to eat and some curves, which are very interesting in respect to the blood sugar in time in your body, how it goes with time, can be freely downloaded very soon from our website. And
what is your website?
Sinfreesugar.com.
Sinfreesugar.com. Alrighty.
Because sin-free sugar was intended for diabetics and people which didn't want to become diabetics, and sin-free sugar is also intended to help these people,
right,
and not to harm them,
right.
And therefore, we also came up with a diabetes formula. They go hand in hand, actually.
And the diabetes formula. So so it'll be in the United States with a different label. Is that it?
With a different label, and it will come quite soon.
And you also mentioned that you're shipping to Vietnam. So is your company international?
International.
Wow.
They ship to China, to Vietnam, to Hong Kong. They shipped even into Arab countries.
And have you found that the response has been good?
Very good. And this is a formula, Think Smart.
Think Smart.
This is a formula which repairs brain damage, which has happened already.
Dr. Krupp, you'd like to make some strong statements, which I agree. And the ingredients I certainly recognize as being valuable, for sure.
Wow. There is something in CDP choline or choline, CDP choline, which is very, very important for your brain. And DHA, it's a very important formula. Yeah. The precursor to this formula I was involved with years ago. We made tests with students in front of an exam. And we gave placebos and the real stuff. Those with the real stuff fared much better than those which didn't get the real stuff.
Now let me ask you about time frame. Let's say colleagues that you've been working with for a long time, men and women who take care of themselves, but from your perspective, my perspective, they could do a better job of taking care of themselves. Let's say they're men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they begin to use this Think Smart. Do you think that within a week, your friends and colleagues
say...
Actually,
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3
yes.
weeks. 2 to 3 weeks.
But it will open up your memory. Lost memory will be recovered, and you will have a short-term memory again. I take it myself, and I'm 74 years old.
Right. No, actually, I've used situations like this, and I see myself as a smart fellow. I take care of myself, so I see myself as a guy who's paying attention and trying to be healthy. When I started taking some memory formulations, in less than a week, I realized my memory was better, and I was just pleased but kind of shocked how well it worked on me.
That is in a week. That will happen after a week. You think clearer.
I think clearer, yeah.
You think faster. You think more concentrated. That happens after a week. But all the other effects come later. I mean, it even, I don't want to say it, but it even can maybe stopping a very devastating brain sickness.
It could be helpful anyway, right?
It
Might
will
not be
be
the full
of-
answer. It could be very helpful.
No matter what, it will be helpful.
And of course, they're only nutrients, so there's zero downside to this.
Only natural nutrients.
Right. So let's say someone is not paying attention and they swallow a whole bottle today. What happened is they wasted money, but they can hurt themselves. This
No,
is
they
not a
can't.
medication. Right. That's
Not a
It's
medication.
important. Right. It's important. And when I ask the time frame, let's say, for example, we're taking a medication that the physician recommends, he or she recommends, and we might get the results maybe in 20 minutes. But nutrient therapy, there's a different time frame involved than taking drug therapy. And unless people know that, they think, gee, I took this for a day, Dr. Krupp, and I don't feel any better. It's obviously not working. But they don't know the time frame, and they need to be told, no, there's a time frame involved here.
There is a lady in Fallbrook who takes this stuff. She was forgettable. She had basically age-related memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
She called me a genius after she took that.
That's very nice. That's very nice. It's nice when people like your work. It's really very nice. Yeah, because I find some of these memory formulations, people are shocked how well they work. They're just really catches them completely by surprise in a nice way.
The real thing actually behind is these formulations, all natural products, no chemistry, no side effects.
Right.
I make sure there's no side effects unless the positive ones.
Right, I got you. And this will be available in the United States?
Yes.
And the name Think Smart will be the name you'll be using?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the FDA wouldn't be mad at you for saying that. I don't think. And what else? And this is
there's a cholesterol
This is high blood
formula.
pressure. Now, cholesterol, is this for the American market?
It will come into the American market.
Okay, now this does what? This controls my cholesterol levels? Helps control?
It basically normalizes the cholesterol level.
Mm-hmm.
You must understand, especially diabetics type 2, the high cholesterol in diabetics type 2 is a clear-cut symptom for the underlying cause diabetes.
All right.
Yeah?
Could you repeat that statement?
The high cholesterol in diabetics
Yes.
is a clear-cut symptom which was used in the 20s and 30s and 40s to diagnose diabetes to be present in the guy or the woman which had high cholesterol.
I see.
And in 1950, the American Medication or Medical Association or whatsoever made high cholesterol a sickness in its own right, which I don't agree to, because cholesterol is a symptom of an underlying cause. Treating cholesterol levels without addressing the underlying diabetes is not good curing.
Okay, that's a strong statement, and I agree with you. I agree with you on that. So, what should our cholesterol numbers be?
Actually, between, depending on age, when you are a little bit older, then you should be careful and allow a little bit more, between 120 and 160.
All right. We've been speaking with Dr. Horst Krupp, the inventor of sin-free sugar. Dr. Krupp, it's been tremendous fun. I enjoy having you on the show. And once again, where can we buy the sin-free sugar?
Sin-free sugar you can buy at Sprouts, Albertsons, Food for Less, and soon in more companies. You can go to our website, sinfreesugar.com, or you can go to Facebook, facebook.com/sinfreesugar in one word, and you find everything where you can buy it and how much it costs. You even can buy it at Amazon.
Very good. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on latalklive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
A reality show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
Exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Ro Williams, and I would like to invite you to join GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show, GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes under R&B or watch us live on Ustream TV. We are reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio on latalklive.com. We're more than just talk. We're heaven's party here on earth.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And on this special Franco Colombo edition of Here's to Your Health, we have Larry Greenfield, who's been one of my series regulars here, who has big back grips and other items for the athletes. Larry, welcome back.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you on the show. And so you mentioned to me off camera that you have some new ideas. What are they?
Well, I don't know the new ideas, just some new things going on with the company. We just got back from Washington, D.C., where we sponsored the NPC Max Muscle Virginia Classic.
In D.C.?
In D.C. Well, we have a lot of dealers in D.C. now, and we're in all the Max Muscles in the D.C. area, and the opportunity to sponsor the show came up. And we love going back to D.C. We just love the area. We love the reception we've been given. We just finished with NutriShop. NutriShop in Torrance Beach was actually one of our first dealers. They just did their 7th anniversary, and we have been with them since the beginning. And in just a couple of weeks, we are going on our 7th year of sponsoring Muscle Beach, Venice.
Oh,
so
yes.
we
I met you
will.
there. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly where we met, and we will be back there again with the whole. In Yiddish, we say the whole mishpucha, with the whole team, the whole crew.
Well, that's a very fun event at Muscle Beach. It's really well attended and it's fun.
It absolutely is, and Joe Wheatley has just been an awesome host for us. And it's the place we really consider home in terms of sponsorships, and place where everybody knows us and we know everybody. So there's some exciting things going on.
Well, that's very, very good. And for those who are tuning in and have heard the term big back grips, what exactly are these?
Well, for the people who don't know, everybody knows that when you go into a gym, you're going to end up grabbing something. You're going to grab a handle, you're going to grab a bar, you're going to grab a chinning bar, you're going to grab a plate. The relationship between the hand and the piece of metal that it's trying to grab, let's call it a problematic relationship ever since the beginning of time. There's a bodybuilder we know, Mr. America, 1967, named Don Haworth. Don was the one who actually introduced us in the valley here. He bought a pair at one of our first dealers and said, "Hey guys, look what I found," and started showing them around. And now we're one of the people that really got us launched here in California. He said he and Dave Draper used to cut up little pieces of inner tubes from bicycles, and they had a little cubby at Muscle Beach where they kept them, just a little pieces of inner tubes, just to have something between their hand and the metal to keep their hand from getting torn up and to keep their hand from slipping off the bar, from getting sweaty and slipping off. And I guess people can still do that, but I can tell you from Don, you'll find him on our website. Don prefers these to little pieces of inner tips, just a little more to the point, and doing a little bit more. And basically they do a couple of things. They protect your hand from the metal. You see calluses getting torn open, you see bloody hands, you see dried out hands. So we do protect your hands. In fact, Dave Draper told me now his hands are so beat up from the gym, he has to use sponges, big kitchen sponges, just to pick up a weight.
Really?
But exactly, if you want to do something before you get to that point, you do want to protect your hands. But the other thing we do is we take slippage out of the equation. When somebody is doing a set of chins, or pulling on something, the biggest challenge they have is to keep it from sliding out of their sweaty palm.
Yes.
And so they end up thinking more about their hands than whatever muscle group they're trying to work. And we just take that out of the equation. So do you want to do your lats? You want to think about lats. We will relieve you of the responsibility of worrying about your hands. We'll take care of that relationship for you.
And what is the fabric of the big back grips?
It is, I'm glad you asked, it is a natural rubber. There's no latex, there's no neoprene. It's a natural rubber made here in the United States by one of the top rubber manufacturers who does it according to specs we have given them and worked out with them over a period of about 6 months.
So you're saying that in general people would not be allergic to these the way they could be allergic to latex gloves?
Exactly.
Alrighty. And I use one in each hand, is that it?
One in each hand, and they just kind of stay in the palms of your hands. They stay really easily in the palms of the hands. Our only recommendation is, and we have instructions on the back of the packaging on how not to lose them. But people don't really like to read instructions.
Not so much.
And so they said, well, I lost them. I said, did you put them down between sets? Yeah, I did. Well, the instructions say, don't put them down between sets. Tuck them in a pocket, tuck them in a waistband, tuck them in a sock if you want to. Just don't put them down between sets.
Well, that's how I got my set.
Exactly. It's a good way to get a free pair of grips. I have one friend who uses the grips, and he called me up. He says, I put my grips in a bottle of water down for 2 minutes and turned to talk to a friend. 2 minutes. I turned around, the water was there, the grips were gone.
Oh.
So, we're a popular little item. We've driven people to larceny, we're embarrassed to say.
And this has been around, you said, about 7 years?
2007, we launched our first dealer, a store called N101.
Oh, yes.
N101 Health and Nutrition Sub. They're very big there. They're a very busy little store. They have one around the corner from Gold's Gym in Hollywood and another one on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood. And I think they've put more big back grips into people's hands than anybody.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yes.
That's very impressive. And what is this? I've not seen before.
Well, sometimes I bring some, I don't know if people can see, but sometimes there's some equipment that I use to demonstrate, the efficacy of the grips. And a rope, a nylon, that's what you're pointing at now, is a nylon triceps rope. You put it on a cable, it has weight resistance, and you use it, you push it down, and by straightening out your arms, your triceps, I call them, your biceps are your bend your arm muscle, your triceps are your straighten your arm muscle. And they're two very straightforward little muscles, biceps and triceps. You lower the rope, you straighten out your triceps, lowering the rope against resistance. We keep your hands from sliding up and down the rope. Mm-hmm. And some of the ropes they're making are much longer now. People don't always want to grab them down at the knot at their bottom where their fingers are going to get jammed up anyway. They want to grab them a little higher, but their hands are going to slide. Long and short of it is, we keep your hands from slipping.
Right.
And when you're working out in the gym, keeping your hands from slipping is one of the key features you need to be
Yeah, it really is. Otherwise, you hurt yourself in the gym, and that isn't any fun. It's because you can hurt yourself, and so these are kind of help you not to hurt yourself. Help think about wellness a little.
Help you not to hurt yourself. Help you not to injure your hands. Not to hurt yourself immediately. Not to hurt yourself long term, and to get the most out of the effort that you put in there. So, you don't want to be distracted by ancillary problems such as calluses ripping apart and such. You want to focus on what you came in to focus on.
Right. What exactly are these? Every time you bring these, I never remember from one time to the next what they are. I can't remember.
This is a lat handle. It's called a stirrup lat handle. If you can't see it, it's just a little V-shape. It's a V-shaped handle, 2 places to grab on each side. And if you feel how sharp the metal is.
Yeah.
That's called knurled metal. Knurled, knurled metal. And the manufacturers do that because it gives the lifter some extra grip. It keeps his hands from sliding off maybe a shiny, smooth chrome bar. The downside is it rips your hands apart.
Right.
So by grabbing it with our grip instead of your bare hand, we do 2 things. A, we keep your hand from getting ripped up by the sharp metal points. Mm-hmm. But what we really do is we grip that metal even better than the manufacturer had intended. You will have a better grip on that knurled, pointy, sharp diamond cut handle with our grip than you will with the bare hand, which means you're going to be thinking about your lats and not your slip and hurting hand.
Right. One of the criticisms I have of some of the men I've seen working out in the gyms is it's not that they're not real strong guys, mm-hmm. but they seem to do the movements. They're so jerky. I'm thinking, well, it's a good thing you're still in your 20s because by all that jerking motion, you're going to hurt yourself. I just can't see the benefit of it. Although I'm impressed by some of the weight they can lift.
No, we were talking about that. I know your next guest is Franco Colombo, and we were talking a little bit earlier when we were out in the green room about how people injure themselves in the gym.
It's actually easy to do.
It's easy to do. When Franco was mentioning, he sees almost nobody working out correctly. You can walk. He says, "I'll buy you lunch if you can find one guy here working out correctly." And he says he never has to buy anybody lunch. And there are a couple. This is actually one thing I do want to mention. I don't know if anybody can see this.
Well, yeah, sure. We're on camera here.
It's a lifting strap, and if you look at it, it's not all that different than a noose. A lifting strap. Yeah. You put it on your hand, you put it around your wrist, wraps around your wrist, and then it wraps around the bar to keep the bar from falling off. The problem is, as I said, it's a noose. And people use this as another way to try to hang on to the bar and keep it slipping out of their hands when they're doing a lot of weight. As I said, this is a problem that's bedeviled lifters from the beginning. The problem is, maybe Franco would say something about this later when he's on, but it does a couple of things. First of all, it cinches down on your wrist as you work, cutting off circulation.
Right.
It crushes soft tissue up against bone tissue, causing injury. But the worst thing that it does is it relieves your forearm of the need to grip, and it just kind of dangles the weight from your hand bones and your wrist bones. And those bones were never manufactured to work in that fashion. Your hand bones, your ability to grip, was made to work all of a piece for your whole forearm and on down. And if you're using this to do it, it's injury, it's pain, it's really something to rethink a little bit.
Well, Larry, thank you for that tip. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So once again, Larry, where can I get the Big Back Grips?
You can get them at bigbackgrips.com. You can get them on bodybuilding.com. You can get them at Max Muscle, NutriShop, certain Gold's gyms, Powerhouse gyms, World's gyms. We're all over the country now. You can go on bodybuilding.com. You can go on bigbackgrips.com and find a dealer right near you.
Well, Larry, thanks for being on. Thanks very much.
It was my pleasure. Josh, I always love coming, and I thank you for the invitation.
It was fun.
Take care.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. This is a special Franco Columbu edition. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey, back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Okay. We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. It's my great pleasure to have Franco Columbu, the champion bodybuilder, on Here's to Your Health today. Franco Columbu, with people like Larry Scott and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Serge and Frank Zane, were the most influential bodybuilders of the 70s and 80s and have had great influence in the United States and internationally. Franco continues with his work in healing. He's a graduate chiropractor, has been so since '76, and has a practice here in Los Angeles, and he's involved with bodybuilding throughout the United States and worldwide. Franco Columbu, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you on the show.
And after all this build-up you did,
big build-up,
I can go now.
Not just yet. No, we have to do an interview first.
Okay.
People would like to know your thinking. And one of the ways in which, so so bodybuilding was, so in 1965 you met Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
And then I think you was it in Stuttgart? I think Arnold he met you in Stuttgart. Then you met him again a couple years later in Munich. So you men have been friends for like a very long time, and the sport has changed, and our thinking about wellness has changed.
Yes.
And you decided a very long time ago to become a chiropractor because you just are interested in wellness more than all the bodybuilders, they're athletes. But you also saw a wellness component in that?
But a lot of bodybuilders, they go from bodybuilding and they enter the field of nutrition.
Right.
A lot. They develop vitamins, minerals, and different things. And like Frank Zane is a school teacher.
Yes.
It's very impressive, that to me, because he approached like the kids with the health of training.
Right.
In my case, I saw so much value in the chiropractic profession regarding the connection between training, getting injuries, and knowing chiropractic, how you cope with these injuries.
Right.
And the truth is that if when you train with long careers, injuries here and there, you get some could be the bone problem, the spine, or could be, let's say, the muscle tissue. Mm-hmm. And the more you know, the more important it is. The more you know, the more you become a champion. You can't just go and not have an idea. In fact, what's good about my chiropractic office is that because I know so much about muscles, I got to a point now, patients come to my office and 90% plus, I just do muscle work and they feel better.
Right.
I have an instant success. I mean, really 100% successful. To a point that if you go to my office, you can't find my office. I don't have a sign on the street, nothing. I removed all the names, all the signs. I said I don't want them to find me.
Okay,
joking.
very nice.
So you say that, you know.
Now, before you became a chiropractor, you had a terrible leg injury, did you not?
That was toward the end of my chiropractic career. I mean, the school.
Training.
Yes.
You hurt yourself. You were participating in a TV show. Is that it? And you were
I was doing a TV show. We were doing
the
World's Strongest Man.
Right.
And we were running with a refrigerator, but I injured my knee. Yes.
Okay, so first of all, running with a refrigerator, is it interesting that some men could actually be strong enough to be able to run with a refrigerator? I mean, who could really do that? And when you hurt your knee, what kind of prognosis were you given when you hurt your knee?
But it was very weird. Immediately, right after the injury, I knew I wasn't broken the bone. It was really the ligaments fell apart like this, you know, the entire knee. And then the doctor says, you know, forget competing, is over with you. And the will or the know-how to do post-therapy becomes very important here on the radio show, here in your show. And here's what I would like people to know. Number one, today when they do surgery in the hospitals, in all the orthopedics, their technology got so advanced. Now they do like microscopic, and they are so good, and they do the best job. But the best job is to come after in the rehabilitation moment. Mm-hmm. You have to have the best physiotherapy after. You must rehabilitate the injury properly, or you cannot come back as you used to be before. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I did a lot of post-therapy. It took me 5 years to come back. But then I say, I got to come back. I got to show that can be done. And then I won Mr. Olympia again.
In 81?
In 81, 5 years later.
Yeah, you won it in 76 and you won it in 81.
Yes. And the knee was actually, I have to tell you, the knee was like this. It was completely, all the ligaments torn and the calf muscle, the hamstring muscle. And to show that you can rehabilitate that kind of injury is just proof that you can rehabilitate every injury, including major surgeries, if you do the post-therapy properly. This is very, very important to do the post-therapy. See that as number one, because the orthopedist gives you a good surgery and then it leaves.
Right.
Now it's up to you.
And the post-therapy, is that actually where chiropractic comes in? Do the chiropractors do post-therapy that you feel is valuable?
But they do actually do both. The best post-therapy will be if you do it with a physical therapist and a chiropractor in combination. And you have to learn the most. You got to learn from them what can I do out of home more than but just going to my therapy session. More.
And did you do other things? Did you do stretching? Did you use things like Arnica montana, homeopathic remedies? Did you do, water baths? Did you use steam rooms? I mean, what kind of, because after all, we're talking about, the late 70s. That was a long time ago now.
Yes.
Right, long time ago.
But here's what you have to do. You have to look at two separate things, number one. First, look at the exercise part. The other part is the nutrition part.
Right.
And you have to look at the individual person. Like in some people, nutrition is 60% important and 40% the training. And in some people, it's reverse. It's 40% the nutrition and 60% the training. And that depends on the metabolism.
Right.
If you have a great metabolism, then the training becomes more important. If your metabolism is not as good, then you have to watch more the diet, the food. So now in a rehabilitating injury, you really have to learn the nutrition part regarding protein to rehabilitate. Repair in the body is done by amino acid. The amino acid comes from the protein. Protein converts into amino acid. The body then takes amino acid to repair everything in the body, the organs, the muscles, and the bones. Now, the next step is you need to know about minerals and vitamins. The secret is it doesn't work by saying, I know how many minerals you take. And you say 1,000. Okay, good, I take 2,000. Doesn't work that way.
Right.
It works by you must learn what you need. You take what you need, right proportion, and not overdosing, because too much good food is bad for you.
Right.
It's simple, but learn either through the blood test or by your body, learn some signs. For example, let's say you're low on calcium. You get cramps. And usually calcium deficiency, the cramp usually comes in the gracilis, in the groin, in the hamstring or in the calf muscle.
All right.
That's the most common area. It's good to know these little things.
Yes.
And let's say you go to the gym and you're training and you saw today and you saw tomorrow. It looks like you always saw. That's like a vitamin C. It's nice to know these little things. And the vitamins and the minerals work best when you're low in that type of a vitamin. It's important to know.
I was reading in your book, you mentioned many years ago, you went out with Arnold and a bunch of other bodybuilders to a buffet, and you had fish and a salad, and Arnold had something light, and the rest of the men ate monster amounts of food, and that caught you by surprise because based on your background, your family were eaters of, mentioned organically grown fruits and vegetables, but your family were simple eaters of fresh food, and that stood you in good stead.
But that is how you grow up is very important, because if you grow up with eating immediate food, like I'm talking about real fresh food, like my sister still today, if I go to Sardinia and says, oh, let me get the salad, and she disappears from the house. She's in the back of the house in the garden, cutting the salad, bringing it out, and mixing it, and you can taste the flavor,
Right.
you know? And this becomes important then. The same applies to food. Food needs to be treated like gold, like it's the most important in your body. And also, to get back to answer your question regarding how much people eat, the secret of health, and this is like, obviously, it's very funny that something good for bodybuilding is also good for people who don't do bodybuilding. For example, eating too much at one time is wrong.
Right.
The idea is you can eat the same amount of food and divided by 4 times is much healthier than eating it in one time.
Right.
That's obvious.
It's good advice. A lot of people need to hear that on a regular basis because I think everyone kind of overeats. I've never met anyone who doesn't really overeat.
Yeah, it was very weird. When I competed in the 81 Mr. Olympia, the few weeks before, I was starting to go quality food, so it's like really only fish and then having only piece of bread, then the salad or the meat. And I cut down on potatoes, for example. And I love fried potatoes. And I was eating 3 potatoes, I say I got to keep the weight small. I didn't want to have anything bulky. And then after the Mr. Olympia, my stomach actually can shrink. The stomach, when you eat small meals, shrinks within 6 weeks. Then when I competed in the Mr. Olympia, the next morning, Sunday, I ordered 2 portions of potatoes. And I ate them both, and I had so a stomach pain. I was so bloated, I thought I'm going to explode. And I said, oh, I have to start slow.
Right.
You have to come back to your normal, you know?
We're speaking with champion bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, Franco Columbu, and we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be right back with Franco Columbu after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network. And now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back, listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. My special guest, Franco Columbu, is in studio. Franco Columbu, Mr. Olympia, and healer. Franco, so people come to you, athletes come to you, people come to you because of your expertise. And there's always the question about protein needs and digestion of protein, because there's a lot of discussion now about how we digest our foods properly or not. And I was reading through your book. You talk about food combination, which is a concept that I completely agree with and follow and found to be valuable. But it's a concept that a lot of people have never heard of.
Well, the food combination, and they are two separate things. If you don't want to learn everything, my idea is learn what's most important first.
Right.
One of them is how much protein you need, you know? And the food combination is like a lot, there's some disagreement out there, but you always have to look the simple way for, let's say, anabolism. Anabolism means building up. Mm-hmm. And building up means going to the gym, training. Now I'm going to eat my protein, make sure my muscles grow. And you have to understand proportions. For example, the combination is not as important as the amount of protein.
Okay.
If you want to explain that.
Go ahead, yeah.
And here it works. Somebody who doesn't train or trains and doesn't want to get more muscles, he should know himself how much protein is to be required. And the way to know is very simple. Whatever you weigh in kilograms is the amount of grams of protein you should eat to stay the same. In other words, if you're 110 pounds, let's say,
right,
and that means it's 50 kilos your body weight,
yeah,
you should eat 50 grams of protein.
Just to maintain.
That maintains the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to make a rule. You have to say, okay, I would like to get more muscles. I want to get 5 pounds of muscles. Then you have to figure it out how much more protein you eat than the amount that you need anyway. And the average that I recommend is like, okay, if you train an hour or more, you can eat 25 grams of protein per day more than the regular amount.
All right.
But here is how I follow. And this, nobody knows this yet, probably. And the reason is they don't think the next step. And here's what I found out. Now I'm eating 25 grams more protein.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
The body doesn't make extra hydrochloric acid to digest the extra protein.
Right.
What do? Go to the store and get yourself digestive enzymes, possibly good papain enzymes, but included hydrochloric acid. That is what the body doesn't make extra.
Right.
And that extra, you figure it out between 300 and 500 milligrams of the hydrochloric acid for the 25 grams of protein. Now you break down the protein in the stomach.
Otherwise, you just have a lot of gas and be
Otherwise,
uncomfortable.
you have that protein might not be digested, might come out, and gas is actually undigested protein, by the way. Okay? That's step one. Step two, there's another step that I learned, and that was B6.
B6.
And B6 acts as a transporter and a converter from protein to amino acid.
Okay.
Can you imagine how great job a B6 that is cheapest thing that you can buy in the store? You buy like 150 milligrams of vitamin B6, 100 costs $10 or $15.
Right.
That is needed for the extra protein. You need to take extra B6, which could be between minimum 50 up to 150, 200 milligrams per day. It's rather soluble, and you know, it doesn't have a big problem with side effects, etc. After you got that done, there's one more step that nobody thinks about it. And even if you do it, you should know about it. And that is the training.
Yes.
To pull the nutrition to the muscle, you have to train. That training is to be more every day because you're eating more protein. You have to exert more. You have to force yourself. You can't go say, oh, I do my 400-pound bench press and go home. No. Every day, because you're eating this extra protein, you have to exert. Say, maybe I can do 4 or 5, maybe 4-15. That extra force makes the extra muscle grow and the extra protein making it valuable. That is how you edge over other people. You know, it's like take all the steps necessary. Don't, go all the way from here to there.
I understand.
Yes.
So you're saying that if I do increase the protein intake 25% and work out, you can put on what? You can just put on more muscle on the frame and get better definition.
Yes. At the same time.
Right.
Because the old-fashioned in the 70s, which Arnold and Ivy didn't do, and the other people, all of them did it, including like the great bodybuilders, Mike Katz, Ken Waller, Frank Zane did it a little bit, not too much. And that was the bulk up first and then go back to definition. We didn't like that. We don't want to get fat. We want to bulk up, only muscle, and stay there. And actually, the people used to go like Mike Mensa was very known for that he really bulked up first.
Right.
And he was able to weigh 230 and then go in the Mr. Olympia to 10. And that is 20 pounds less that he reduced again. In my case, the day I was the heaviest in my life was the day of the Mr. Olympia. I want to build up the muscle until that minute. It's hard to keep him too.
And would you say that in general, that your thinking on it and Arnold's thinking has been picked up and that Mike Mensa's approach is less in fashion now?
But they still do it that way because it's very hard to stay defined, And for people who were small, like Mike Mensa's approach was pretty good. It was like you get to bulk up,
He was a pretty good athlete, wasn't he, Mike Mensa?
He was very good, yes.
And he was also very strong.
He was pretty strong. He did heavy dumbbell weights, and stuff like that. Yes.
And that was your contingent, right? In other words, not all bodybuilders are strong, but you happen to be very strong.
But what happened was I realized that people thought, bodybuilders are weak. And then when I came to Gold's Gym, I thought I was the world's strongest. And then I'm doing bench press. And I say, I'm the world's strongest. I won the world championship in powerlifting in Europe. And I'm doing 400 pounds, 5 or 6 reps. And some guy comes to me and says, can I work with you? I say, go ahead. And then he lies down and does 10 reps, 405 pounds. And I say, Arnold, he said, come over here, look at this. And it was Bruno Sammartino, by the way. Of course. But then the funny part, Arnold looks at me and says, Franco, let me explain you something. You think you're the strongest because you won this dinky competition. They call it Mr. World in Europe. But there's nobody there from America. And it was going on. And he says, look, there are 4 people who beat you here in the gym. I multiply that to 20,000 gyms. There must be hundreds of thousands of people who beat you. And if totally that day I say, I got to do more. That's how you motivate.
And so that worked for you? You didn't mind Arnold giving you a hard time about that
No,
one?
no, it worked because at my 405 pounds, I went up to 550 real fast.
Really?
In bench press. Yeah, you got to get stronger or retire.
And would you say that really it was just motivation? You thought, oh, I can do more now. All of a sudden you realized you could do more. Was that it?
You really see the other people do it. Why you can do it?
Right.
It's really incredible.
And would you say that really that you had the advantage of being a very careful eater your entire life? That really kind of really helped you be a young man as a boxer and then as a powerlifter, right? That really helped you.
Well, eating good and also in bodybuilding, by the way, the reason why Sergio Oliva was very strong.
Yes.
I admired him so much because he was strong. He was a weightlifter.
Right.
I had no idea. And I was a power lifter. That's what makes a good bodybuilder. Because it makes the muscles much harder, like a rock. And you can see that when you're posing.
Right.
That was very, very, very interesting. And by the way, you'd be surprised how stronger bodybuilders, many of them, like when we used to train in the original Gold's Gym, Ken Waller used to do 400 an incline bench. Or you take like Bruno Sammartino, I never saw him. I took 80-pound dumbbells, he took 85, okay? Give up that. I went 450 bench press and he say, maybe you should remove it to warm up. He said, no, leave it there. And he will do 10 reps. He got so many guys who were strong. And I said, boy, bodybuilders are strong,
And it was fun. And
so much fun.
What you lift now?
Not enough.
But when you do, because now you're not 21, and in your book you mentioned, things change when you're 30, things change. So what is appropriate for a mature man to do as far as bodybuilding, in your opinion?
Oh, very, very, very important. Like I go to the gym and people are already watching, is Franco going to train heavy or light? And it's like, what I do? Maybe I should warm up in the car and then go in and lift heavy. But the truth is, when you get older, the muscles get stronger, not weaker. Okay. Everybody thinks they get weaker. Pro centimeter, pro size, they get stronger, but they get stiffer, less flexible, takes longer to warm up. So what do? You stretch, warm up longer, and then you can go heavier. You start light, and then you can increase the weight. In other words, the older you get, the more you stretch, the more you warm up, the more reps you have to do.
Is it appropriate for an older man, older man, let's say anyone older than 45, that's a big spread. So, but you as a chiropractor, as a healer, you don't think someone should be lifting 550 pounds, even if they can do it, because that can't be a good idea, can it?
No, absolutely not. I tell you what you have to do in the future. Once you've done, when you compete, you don't care. I want to show the masses to win.
Right.
After, I tell you a bigger secret. Is not most important now comes another thing that nobody's been doing, balancing muscles. If you want to prevent injuries in the body, in the joints, in the shoulders, you must balance the muscles. In other words, you have to equally train the opposite muscle. You have to have equally, let's say, the tricep and bicep equally strong. The forearm should be both sides. Or you take the back and the chest, or you take the front thigh and the back thigh. Balancing is the most important now. This is it.
I see. Well, Franco Columbu, it's fantastic having you here. Everyone's thrilled, actually. The audience is thrilled. And tell us where your chiropractic office is anyway. Maybe we'll just walk by. Where are you?
Yeah, you can walk by, and then in case you can't find to go in, you call us and we come out to get you.
That's very good.
And it's on the corner, near the corner of Westwood Boulevard in Olympic, and open 3 days a week, and that's it.
That sounds real good.
And I do good chiropractic care. I talk to you about nutrition, personalized training programs, what not to do. The most important also in the gym is not only what to do, but not to do. You know, like a muscle is too tight, a muscle is too developed. You train the opposite and don't do that one. So I hope I shared good information.
You did. Thank you very much.
And I want to thank you.
It was my pleasure. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. Our special guest has been Franco Colombo. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. On this special Franco Colombo edition, all the men in the wellness profession wanted to be on with Franco, and my friend Rich is on, Rich Drigro from Now Foods Now Foods, an important supplement house. Rich, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Josh. Thanks for having me on the show.
And you were a bodybuilder when you were a younger guy, right?
I sure was.
Yeah.
I was one time a national level competitor, but haven't done it in about 20 years.
Right. But you know the value.
Yes.
And it's nice to see that, 20 years later, bodybuilding is everywhere. I mean, the basketball players do it, the football players do it. Whereas when I was a young guy in the 60s, people said, oh, no, don't lift weights. You get muscle bound. They actually said that, and they said it every day. They were completely wrong, but that's what they said.
That's what they said, and it is completely wrong because, as Franco was just saying in the studio, it's amazing. No matter how they try to change it these days, bodybuilding and strength training, lifting weights, is still a very important part of basketball, of baseball, all the major sports, NFL. So it's just great to see him, still doing it. 70-something years old.
I think he's like 72. Yeah.
I mean, if we could look that great at 72, 73 years old, I think we'd all be pretty happy, right?
Very happy, very happy. And it's nice to see also that strength training is considered not just important for the athletes when they're young, but for longevity. It's seen as a key component for longevity.
Correct. Yeah, it's still because it's interesting how his take on it was your muscles get stronger as you age. A lot of people believe after a certain age you start declining. So it's the positive, the nice positive vibe he gave, and the encouragement just reminds us of that fact. It's so important to just keep our muscles strong, keep going, keep healthy, live every day like it's our last, and keep building muscle and feel healthy and strong.
Sure. And a lot of supplements that you were showing on camera here from now being a major American manufacturer of supplements.
Yes.
So they're not a private label company that sells vitamins. They're not a marketing company. They are a supplement manufacturer that manufactures their own supplements in their own laboratory.
Yes. Right. What's so great about now, we've been in business since 1968, the late 60s, so 46 years or so in business. And we manufacture everything from vitamins to sports nutrition but also not just a supplement house, but we do foods.
Right, you do foods.
As well as personal care now. Aromatherapy, some of the things that are growing and people are looking into is different types of care. So, we do a little bit of it all and all in-house.
Yes, I really like now. I like their products. And also they have a product, they have frankincense oil.
Yes.
And I like the quality of their oils and essential oils in general.
Thank you.
And I find I've been using the frankincense oil, frankly, on my skin, and it's been very good for my skin.
Oh, good.
I'm tell you the truth, I'm quite impressed. And I sold it to a lady the other day, some frankincense oil. She said, no, her skin is definitely much better. But her husband says she smells like frankincense. And I said, well, that's a good thing. Frankincense is a good thing.
It smells like the holidays.
Yeah, it smells like the holidays.
It's fine, right? Why not? You're right.
But I find that really it's helped to heal my skin. And now frankincense is used, for a lot of important things. They also use it for cancer, quite frankly. And but it's really a great remedy, and it was popular 2,000 years ago, and it's back today.
And it's back today.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I mean, there's a few things here I have today that go back a few hundred years, like elderberry.
Yes, elderberry.
They work so well. Even to this day, people are still figuring out, the benefits of these things so many years later. So. It's real important to look back on things sometimes to just get an idea of how we're going to move forward. And we do a little bit of that whole body care everywhere, from the skin to internal to external, and now you involve the exercise. I think all of this will help us to just live every day the best we can. So,
well, one of the products that I really like to recommend for the athlete or for the student or for anyone is the now L-glutamine powder. I actually think it's a great product personally. How much do you recommend for a person to use L-glutamine?
I like taking 5 grams a day myself. It may sound like a lot because if you were to take it in capsules, that's 500 milligrams each. But in powder, that's only about a teaspoon.
Right.
So, and I remember from last time we spoke, Josh, that you use this quite regularly.
I do, yeah.
Remember you saying it helps you to focus and
makes me stronger. And I also I do about 5 grams a day.
5 grams a day as well?
And it works good for me. And I sell a lot of it in my store, and people seem to really like it. I mean, students like it, grandmas like it. Everybody likes it because they realize it just gives them strength and focus and stabilizes their blood sugar.
And stabilizes their blood sugar, right.
Right. So it's a nice little, it's not a weight loss item, but it's very good for the health of the body, so it helps us maintain a healthy weight.
You're correct. And glutamine, being the most abundant amino in our body, we're always calling on more of it. The more active we are, the more activity that we do, the more strenuous our activity is, whether that be mental or physical, the more glutamine we're calling on. So to supplement it makes a lot of sense. It's pure pharmaceutical grade L-glutamine, and it could be used from anything from focus, like yourself, you use it, or preservation of muscle tissue, as I like to use it, especially after you work out to help replenish what you just tore down. I think Franco, hit on that a little bit too. Replenishing what you've broken down while you're training, so you're always in an anabolic state, which means you're always improving, you're always getting stronger, you're always growing, and glutamine is so important to that. It's the first thing almost that the body looks for when you've broken it down and it needs to recover. So it'll keep you recovering faster, and then also for intestinal health. To line and nourish the intestines. So I think whether you're a bodybuilder or whether you're an everyday person, L-glutamine is just shown to be a really effective amino acid, really good supplement.
And what is the GH? What is the Pro GH?
Now, what's nice is now came out with several years ago an all-encompassing formula with L-glutamine. So what's nice about this is you get 2 grams of glutamine per level scoop, but we also have a full balance of different amino acids like L-arginine, ornithine, lysine that help benefit the endocrine system, which helps us to produce hormones. Some of the things that haven't been called on in a long time, like the pineal gland, to help promote growth hormone. This supplement will help to do that. And then it works as well with the neurotransmitters using GABA and glycine. So you're calm, you don't have the anxiety, you can now produce more growth hormone, recover faster. And then we're the stevia people, so we put a little stevia in it, and it tastes pretty good. So you could use this before you work out, before you go to sleep at night. And so it's just for someone who wants just a little bit more than glutamine, maybe an athlete. Would be beneficial to use this for the additional amino acids.
And it doesn't give them, it gives them size or no size?
Size, for sure.
Size.
Oh yeah, because size meaning muscularity, not so much the size we don't want, but muscularity for strength, for muscle building, for recovery, for energy, for strength. I think probably most important, because if we can preserve and be in an anabolic state, we don't break down. So we always have more strength when we're exercising, whether that be running, cycling, whether it be bodybuilding. And I'm looking at Franco's bodybuilding book here. It's amazing. I probably read that like 3 times in my life.
It's a fun read, actually.
Yeah.
It's fun to read it. And how much of this do I use? 1 scoop? I use a scoop?
Yeah, this has a pre-measured scoop inside. It's 1 level scoop, which is 18 grams. So you can put this in about maybe 8 ounces of water. And you don't need any type of other liquid except for water. It tastes like almost like a fruit punch.
Okay.
So
okay, great.
Yeah, and one of the things with us with the stevia, if people have ever tried stevia and think that it's bitter, with Now's Better Stevia, we have a special process, an enzymatic process. We use the whole herb, the whole stevia herb. There's not a bitter aftertaste. So I usually get a lot of compliments on the stevia not being bitter. It's really clean all the way through.
Okay.
And it doesn't affect your blood sugar.
Right.
And it's very good if you're diabetic or borderline. And I've kind of latched onto that now as my new sweetener too, because I was using sugar in the raw for a little while and whatnot, but then I got used to stevia, and now you'll find stevia in a lot of our products.
Yeah, stevia is a good choice, and yours does have a nice taste.
Thank
and
you.
Franco talked about vitamin C, and so what is this? This is a new vitamin C you have, these packets?
Yes, we've had a product, and I'm excited about this one, Josh, because we've had Effer-C out for a while, which are basically drink sticks that are effervescent.
Huh.
You put them into water, they fizz up, you drink it down. It's so much better than swallowing a tablet of vitamin C. But what makes ours special is that it's a combination of vitamins and minerals, B vitamins for stress, for energy. And this one in particular has elderberry, the herb that goes back several years that has antiviral properties.
Sure.
So it's very good for our immune system. But one of the things I think is so important to mention is us Californians, it's very dry out here. I moved from Florida 2 years ago, so there's a lot of humidity. I love it here so much more, but it's very dry. So I noticed myself I have to drink more water. My skin gets dry.
Right.
So by supplementing with these, not only can you put in the vitamin C that you need, which is healthy for collagen support and anti-aging, but also your minerals, electrolytes, So you balance, you stay hydrated, you keep your immune system high, you feel good, and they taste good. Because again, these are sweetened with a little bit of stevia and xylitol, which is a sweetener from corn that's non-GMO. So it's a perfect balance to where it doesn't have that aftertaste. It's sweet, not too sweet, but yet it's so much better than drinking water. So for people who don't like to drink a lot of water, even though they need to, like myself, I throw a few of these in per day. And it seems to do the trick.
Okay, great. Well, Rich, I appreciate you stopping by. I very much appreciate it. And where can I buy now supplements?
Oh, well, first you have to go to find vitamin retailers like the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills.
I know that store very well.
Yes, they'll have a lot of our selection of our products, and please visit that store and find a retailer by you.
Thank you very much. Well, Rich from Now Foods, thanks for being on Here's to Your Health.
Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network, this special Franco Colombo edition. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and we will be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back to this edition of Here's to Your Health. And now your host, personal fitness trainer, Andy Harlan.
Thank you, Josh. I'm Andy Harlan, your host for this segment of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, the future of radio. and I'm with Mateo Baker, owner of 220 Fitness in Santa Monica, and I've had him on before. Let's see if we could follow that Franco Colombo act.
Yeah, right.
Mateo. But let's talk a little bit more about your gym and the new style of fitness training you guys incorporated in your new facility.
Yeah, absolutely. As we spoke about last time, is that we're a new fitness facility that specializes in personal training and group fitness. We have over 70 classes a week, and what's really unique about it is just the diversification of the type of classes we have. Since we're only it's just that gym for now, it's our first gym, I'm able to kind of move with the times pretty fast, and so we'll try to get the latest greatest trends out there and introduce them, and we've really been successful so far. For example, we'll have a class that was just on Shark Tank recently, and Mark Cuban invested in it, a class called Surf Set, where you're actually on surfboards on Bosu balls in a classroom. Just recently, we've had a lot of PR with it. Channel 7 News was out 2 weeks ago, but it's a great core workout. I'm not sure that it gets you ready for the waves per se, but it does help on a lot of balance. Like I said, core. That's kind of exciting. So then we have that, and then we'll go to a cycling class, to a full-fledged boxing academy, where with a friend of ours, Richard Salgado, who's trained James Toney, 8-time world champion. He's one of our coaches there. 12 classes a week with that. We do just all kinds of different all-terrain classes out back where you're flipping tires, rope swings. We do the other class. It's pretty funky. It's called Kangoo, where you're on these kind of goofy-looking bouncy shoes that you meet an instructor at the gym, and then we get you strapped in these boots, and we take you down to the boardwalk, and you run on the boardwalk in the nice, beautiful sun, and it's pretty fun. It's these shoes were built to absorb all the impact when you're running. It was designed by a marathon runner who blew out his knees, and so there's really low impact on your back and your knees. So we do classes like that. We have another class called Gravity, which are these machines that are, I guess the only way to explain it is similar to a Pilates machine, but you're using your own body weight and with these pulley systems to pull it. But
that's a kinetic machine?
Yeah.
The wall that you have there?
That's actually separate. That's a Kinesis wall made by Technogym. That's an interesting machine as well, because it was designed in Italy. Speaking of Franco, it was designed in Italy and right next door to the Ferrari factory. And so some of the same engineers from Ferrari helped design this wall, but it's great for it's more natural movement, functional training, which is kind of the trend. We following Franco, which is kind of ironic, but from a little bit more of a bodybuilding old style to a little bit more of the new, which is more functional. So let's say you're a golfer or you're somebody that just likes to play tennis. This might be a little bit more for you as opposed to bodybuilding.
Well, what do you think with the trend changing towards these kind of different exercises and fitness programs? Do you still think there's a place for bodybuilding in weight training at this point?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that there always will be a little subdivision of working out that'll be bodybuilding. There'll always be that fascination, and I know, to me to this day, I'm still, I was kind of starstruck meeting Franco. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, but I think that for the regular person, it's a bit ambitious to think that you're going to be able to work out all day and eat as much as you need to eat and all the things that you'd have to do to bodybuilding, and not to mention that when you get a bit older, it's a little bit harder on your joints and things like that. So I think that people nowadays want to do things, and what we're trying to do is that make it a little bit more where it's kind of an enjoyable, it's fun, make the fitness journey a little bit more kind of exciting and something new, and I think that's what we want to do. We like to shake it up a little bit. You can do yoga one day, and the next day you're doing cycling. Next day you're doing boxing. I mean, just just kind of shake it up a little bit. I think it makes it more interesting.
I agree, and I think that the core training in some of these classes that you teach over at your place are very good, especially for the average function of your body, for sports and good for athletes and whatnot. And as we said, as Franco said, as you get older, you do have to, slow down and change your way of training,
Right.
warm up and take care of your joints and tendons, which, age quicker than your muscles, which is actually true. But with the bodybuilding, the weight training, it gives you a good look. So my theory is, as a trainer, I like to combine the core training and that kind of stuff with, bodybuilding, because then you're a functioning athlete, but you also look good.
That's right.
So I mean, I think that some of these things, people go overboard with some of this core training. They get a very thick midsection, which is strong. They're stalwart. They're not going to be knocked over, but they're not going to win a beauty contest either at the same time. But that's to each his own. You train the way you want to, and if you feel great, then keep doing what you're doing. Another topic, we were talking about boxing.
Yeah.
What about the Klitschko's?
Yeah, that's a kind of an interesting story. I have a lot of not only respect for him, but I owe a lot to both the brothers, because Vladimir is the one that inspired me and motivated me and got me out of my comfort zone and got me to kind of do something on my own. It's a funny story because brings us back to Gold's, what we talked about earlier with Franco. As he started there in the early 70s or early 60s. But when I was a manager of Gold's for a while, and I was always not only I kind of did a little amateur boxing, as you know, just a gym boxer, and I heard that when I was managing the gym, I heard that the Klitschko's were coming to town. Actually, Vitaly Klitschko, who was fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world, he was going to be coming to town, and he wanted to come to the gym, and they asked me if I wouldn't mind showing him around and everything, and I was super excited about it because I was into boxing pretty heavy, and they said he was going to be coming to town, and I couldn't wait to meet him, and he finally comes to the gym with all these huge Ukrainian guys and all these 6'7" guys walking.
Well, explain who these guys are to the audience. I'm not sure if everybody knows who the Klitschko's are.
Yeah,
the two heavyweight fighters from the Ukraine.
Absolutely. You got Vitaly, who's the older brother. He's 5 years older than Vladimir, so that makes him around, I guess, 44, and I think Vladimir's, well, maybe he's 42, and Vladimir's like 37, 38. But they've kind of ran the heavyweight division now for the last 8 to 10 years. They both were heavyweight champions at the same time. Vladimir's still currently the heavyweight champion. Vitaly, he's retired now just recently, and he went into politics over in Ukraine, which we know is kind of tough right now. What's going on over there? But so he went into politics, but he was the champion first, and then his brother, that was their goal, to be champions at the same time. And then Vitaly retired recently, and then Vladimir's still the current heavyweight champion of the world. And so that's the story of who these guys are. And then to finish the story, when they were coming to meet me, coming to the gym to see Gold's, I was going to tour Vitaly around. And he got there that day, and I remember I was super excited to meet the heavyweight champ, but he was more excited to meet me because he wanted to see the place where Arnold Colombo, where these guys got their start, and I would want to hear stories about him, but he wanted to hear more stories about me, and it was really funny, and he was just a real genuine good guy, just a great person. And he told me after the tour, and we talked for a while, he's like, Mateo, I'm in a couple weeks. It was a couple weeks or a month. He's like, I want to invite you to one of my fights. And I was like, oh, you don't have to do that, but thank you so much. And he was like, no. You're going to be my guest. And I said, okay, sure. I'm excited about that. Well, a couple weeks went by. I kind of forgot about it. I didn't hear anything I didn't see him or any of his people. So I figured, that's not going to happen. The night before the fight, these huge Russian guys in a limo show up out front. And they come in and they said, we're here to see Mateo. I was scared. I forgot what it was about. And these two big guys were wanting to see me. I was like, I don't know what this is all about. And anyway, he handed me a bunch of tickets to go see us fight. And they weren't just tickets. They sit down. It was ringside seats. And that that kind of began a little bit of the journey with the friendship amongst the brothers. Vitaly was married and has family and stuff, so he was like, I think that you're really going to get along with my younger brother when he comes down. He's single like you are, and you guys will, around the same age bracket. I think you guys will, have a good time. And so then Vladimir came later, and then we became pretty close friends. And actually, like I said, he was the one that inspired me to kind of get out on my own and start 220 Fitness. As we talked about last time, 220 Fitness is actually an address in New York. I went to New York for a year. That's where Vladimir and I decided that we would open a gym. It was in New York, and I was in Manhattan, and I was there for a year building a business plan, and I found a location. It was on 225th Avenue in the Flatiron District. Hence the name. And it also means second to none, and it also is your maximum heart rate. So we love that name 220, and we designed a logo, and we decided let's go with that. Well, right before I was getting ready to sign the lease on this place on 225th Avenue, a lot of things started happening in Vladimir's career, in his personal life. He had, he as people know, he's with a famous actress, in Hollywood, and their relationship started to build, and he just got really busy, and he was just like, right now is just not a great time for me to start this a gym, but I still want to do it, but another time, and obviously I was in a different position than he was, and I was like, I got to get moving on this. I need to start something right away. And so I just said, I'm going to go back to LA. Obviously we're still good friends and no hard feelings, but I said, I'm just going to start it on my own. I'll downsize the project, and I'll go to Los Angeles and start one on my own.
So at 220, aside from the state-of-the-art training facility you have there and the different kinds of classes you've incorporated and the new style of training that's represented there, you also offer a lot of different health services. You have a spa, right? Explain to me what else you offer.
Yeah, we have a kind of a sports rehab chiro office that incorporates therapeutic exercises, utilizing chiro aids and trainers. We have chiropractic services. We're getting ready to expand the facility where we're going to have kind of outside cabanas. Since we're real close to the beach, we're going to have outside cabanas doing massage services and things like that. But yeah, we believe in total wellness. We have nutritionists on board. We're right now in the midst of bringing on some physical therapists. We just luckily enough, a friend of mine who is a pretty popular lawyer in the West Side is bringing Target in as one of our clients. So we're going to start offering some wellness services for like workers' comp and things like that for a big brand like Target. Where right now we've did a lot of co-promotions with Whole Foods, which we're real proud to be a part of them. They're kind of the modern way of shopping, right?
Of course.
And we just partnered with Nike during the summer, or going into the summer, but just coming out of the fall, we had some we did some cross promoting with Nike, and we're working with Reebok on a couple things right now. So yeah, we've been very fortunate thus far with being able to align ourselves with some of these really spectacular companies. As a matter of fact, we just got recognized. It's just 2 weeks ago we were recognized, and we got brought into the City Hall to meet with the mayor as the most loved gym in Santa Monica, and so pretty excited about that. That there's some big name brands out there, the big companies, and to be named the most loved gym in Santa Monica was a real honor. Yeah.
So do you find that the members that come in and want to work out with a personal trainer and get in shape, you try to push them to also get that nutritional information from the nutritionist and work with the trainer and the nutritionist at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, Franco's just told us before this show that how important nutrition can be. He said 60 to 70%, depending on one's metabolism, that's how important nutrition is. And nothing worse than when somebody works out really hard and then is not getting the results that they're expecting. And so if you can do that while you're eating right, obviously you're gonna get your goals much faster, and it's gonna happen that way. So
or a lot of people agreeable to that, or do most of them just want to work out and figure that if I work out I'm going to lose weight, and I don't want to change my way of eating? I don't believe in any of that stuff, like red meat's bad for me. I don't think that's true. I don't take any vitamins, and I don't want to change my lifestyle. Do you get a lot of that? And
oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, I know as as one of the top trainers around, that people want the fast way. They a lot of people just think that they can skip steps, and nutrition's not that important. And there's a lot of different philosophies out there. Some people want to eat to their blood, towards their blood type. There are people that the vegans and the vegetarians and all this stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of philosophies out there. But I think that what we'll do is we try to find out what somebody's personal interests are. Maybe they have some religious things too. I mean, we'll find out everything about them, and we'll give them all kinds of tests, assessments, and then we'll prescribe after we really understand the individual, and we'll design a specialized program that best suits them.
Yeah. Well, that's when you have a health and fitness facility, it's important to try to cover every angle, obviously. And I said it before when Josh interviewed me, that the average person comes in, they work out, and obviously if they don't even change anything about their lifestyle, they're going to feel better because they were doing nothing prior to working out. But even a person that works out every day for 2 hours a day could still be unhealthy, to some extent, based on what they consume. So I think it's important to, try to instill those beliefs into your clients and your members, and let them know that it's more to just coming in and running on the treadmill or lifting weights, that you have to really, change your lifestyle somewhat.
That's right.
I've said it before. It doesn't have to be a complete 180, which is a shock to most people. They're like, whoa, no more red meat. But just to change your eating habits and take some vitamins and take age into consideration, and also your physical well-being is a very important topic when you're working with someone at a health facility.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to become habitual. I know a guy a long time ago was explaining to me how we all have instilled in our minds about that that you have to brush your teeth. I mean, there's nobody that has to tell you have to do that, right? We just know if we don't do it, we got serious problems going to happen. Well, that kind of has to be the same philosophy that you have to use with training and nutrition. It has to become just a part of your life, and in order to not have future problems. And once you can get over that part and say, okay, I'm just going to commit to it, I'm going to succumb to it, I know that I have to do it. The longer I push it off, the more problems I'm going to have down the road. And then once you start having those problems, then it's really hard to go back. Back problems, or if you get diabetes or heart disease or something like that, then it's really hard to go backwards after that. And I think that a lot of times, and especially that we see in this business, is that people want it after they get in trouble. And so if we can get an early jump on it, we have a chance.
Yeah, well, most people are going to fix what's already broken. They're not going to prevent it from breaking.
Right.
And when we were growing up, you lifted the heaviest weights you could lift, you benched every day, and a lot of these things have helped me gain experience on what not to do with my clients, and how to train my own personal clients.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very important thing to take that into consideration. And on a different topic, let's talk about some of the celebrities and some of the people you've run into, and hear a couple stories, from over at Gold's or down in Venice and Santa Monica.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely been a handful of guys and girls that I've got the opportunity to work out with, and to see on a regular basis, and being tied into that community has been kind of fun. Sometimes, and sometimes it's not as exciting as it appears.
Sometimes too fun.
Yeah, sometimes too fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've got to work with, especially in the sports world, in the boxing world, that there's been some guys that have been near and dear to me and good friends. As you know, that Mickey Rourke is a very close friend, and I remember actually he was one of the first guys that when I left Gold's, that said, hey, come stay with me. And I went to Miami and was with him for a while, and definitely some fun times. And in the health and fitness world, this guy is actually, he knows he's he's a smart guy when it comes to his body and knowing what you need to do to get ready for roles and things like that. And he knows how to diet down. The guy can get over 200 pounds down to 170 in a quickness. So. But yeah, I think that I've been around a lot of people that are really influential, and that a lot of celebrities.
Who's the best bodybuilder you ever saw?
The best bodybuilder?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that it's really hard to beat Arnold. I mean, I think that just the genetics of him, just the way his symmetry was just incredible. I don't know, but Franco's in there as well. He was I think Arnold was the predecessor of Franco, right? And I think it's interesting that in 80 Arnold won, and then 81 Franco Columbu won Mr. Universe or Mr. Olympia. So I thought that was pretty good. But as you know from being over there in Venice and Santa Monica, where they're all used to habitate, we'd see a lot of them, and some incredible athletes there.
Yeah, and I've seen some unbelievable athletes down there, and some crazy feats of strength, and some great physical specimens. And it seems that the bodybuilding and fitness world flocks to Santa Monica and Venice. It's obviously the capital of personal training. I think I have a friend named Brad Harris. You know Brad?
Yeah.
And Brad, he was an actor, also a bodybuilder, and he was a personal trainer. And Brad was telling me that he was one of the original personal trainers back in the day. And he said that when a person came into Gold's Venice and they wanted a trainer, they get on the PA system and say, "Will a personal trainer please come to the front desk?" And Brad said that they would run, and people would actually throw other trainers down to be the first guy at the desk, because the guy that got to the desk first got the first chance at training that person. So I thought that was funny.
That is very interesting.
And Brad's pushing, probably in his late 70s now, but was a phenomenal bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Also, so the boxing, I see you have a lot of boxing classes over at 220. You know, multiple heavy bags. I see people training in the back, group training, individual training. Is there any sparring going on back there, or is it mainly just, learning how to fight and, getting a good workout?
Yeah, I think it's more about the workout per se. We're more for the common folk more than people that want to turn pro. Or we're more of, we want this to be open to everyone. Our clientele is about 65% women. So, and nobody that's looking to go pro or anything. But we'll give you the coaches are people that like Rich that train the 8-time world champ. We've got a guy named Chris Cordone who's had 70 amateur fights. We have another guy who had 12 pro. So we have guys that have been in the ring that are training you. And I think people appreciate that. And I've had other guys before who we've tried, which were more like classes type person, but really have never been in there. And the consumer know it. They were pretty knowledgeable about it, and they wouldn't go to those classes. They wanted to be with people that have really been in there, and we'll hold mitts for them. We'll train you like you were really preparing for a fight without actually taking any, without contact. We're not really encouraging contact in, and I think most people that come to our gym are really looking more of as just like a serious workout. Because you can burn up to 1,200 calories during a workout, but not anybody that's really looking to get hit, I would say.
Well, that hurts. It's not really that great to be hit or that fun to be hit, especially when you get to be your age or my age.
Yeah.
I'm over that at this point.
I hear that.
Do you feel that, like I asked you before about the other services that you offer there, do you feel that a lot more clients these days are coming in, working out with the trainer, getting a nutritionist, going for massages, going for the chiropractic work, and combining everything together? Do you see a rise in that?
Absolutely. I do see a trend in that. I think that people are understanding that, with this, the whole total wellness is super important to get to heal the body as well, where, like Franco was talking about with stretching and your nutrition, and align everything with it. Your body is such an interesting machine, and just doing one aspect or one type of training sometimes isn't really what's going to get you there, and you can get like we talked about in our last show, is how there's all these other fads that come out, and some of these gyms where they're just doing like clean and jerks, and they're doing all this certain type of lifting, but then a little bit later down the road they're finding that they're getting injured. We're trying to set you up so to avoid injury, and then after you break the body down, to actually start helping you on the healing process of that.
Great. Well, it's great to have you, Mateo, and that's Mateo Baker here on this segment of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. Give us your info again so we could all hear about your facility.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 220 Fitness in Santa Monica. We're on the corner of Main Street and Pier Avenue. Love to have anybody down there. We're on. You can go to our website at 220fitness.com or Facebook page at 220 Fitness.
That's great. And I'm Andy Harlan again, and thanks for joining us, Mateo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. Appreciate it.
There are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Indian Tyler inviting you to join me beginning April 9th every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity. Join me as we go beyond the vanity and discuss the real life issues of beauty. And it gets really real. So on April 9th, don't forget to tune in to Indian Tyler's Beyond the Vanity Wednesdays at 2 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, and AHA Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey, this is James Kinney, inviting you to join me every Thursday at noon for The Business of Business. Join us as we discuss success and how to reach it. Listen, don't forget to join me every Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time for The Business of Business, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. Hey, and don't forget, you can also catch me on iTunes Radio R&B, Radio Flag, TuneIn Radio, Live 365, AHA Radio, TiVo Radio, and Apple TV Radio, or just watch and listen directly at latalklive.com, where we are more than just talking. Murked it.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. And now your host, Yvonne Ovid.
Welcome. How are you today on Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, where we are riding the wave of internet broadcast, and we are more than just talk on LA Talk Live. So today, my guest is Linda Dolson. Linda Dolson is a graduate of the California College of Natural Medicine. She's certified as a naturopath, as a homeopath, and she is a holistic health practitioner, natural health practitioner, I believe. Naturopath.
Yes.
And she is specializing in neurophysical reprogramming, referred to as NPR. So if you hear us say NPR today, you'll know it's neurophysical reprogramming. So Linda, Welcome today. I'm so excited for you to share with our viewing audience today who you are and what you do, because it's all about emotional healing. We've talked about fitness today.
Right.
We've talked about nutrition and building muscles. But we're talking about healing from the inside out.
Yes, well, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for having me here and giving me the opportunity to talk about my passion, which is emotional healing.
Well, I know that you've been a manager in the corporate world, and you shared with me how in those years of being a manager in the corporate world, how women would come to you for advice, and you just naturally knew where to go, to help people. And today, with the emotional healing, your practice is called Perfect Image Health.
Correct.
And it's a private practice that you have, and you are helping people who have suffered from domestic violence, from sexual trauma, from eating disorders, from childhood trauma, teenage issues, which you can run the gamut with teenage issues, and combat vets that are coming home, and the PTSD that all of these people can be dealing with, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other emotional traumas that keep an individual stuck and unable to move forward in life, in their relationships, in their career, in their finances. I mean, just across the board, they become paralyzed.
Right.
So what's the most important thing that you'd like to talk about today regarding emotional traumas and emotional healing?
Well, I think the most important thing is that people need to get to the core of what's going on in their life and what their belief system has been all their life, who they perceive they are, and what their value is. And this comes from childhood. So most of these issues are about how they were treated, what they felt their value was, like I said, and they get that by whether they feel loved, whether they have been listened to, whether they're even paid attention to, whether they're nurtured, what's happened to them, whether they were abused sexually or just being hit or emotionally abused by the way they're being spoke to. All these different things create an identity within a person, and it's their perception at that time, and it's usually very young in a child's life, that makes us into the adults that we are.
Most people I know deal with some kind of emotional woundedness.
Right.
And we're talking, some of this is just the natural ignorance, perhaps, that parents may have with their children based on the way that they were raised, or thoughtless things that were said. And then add to that, perhaps, sexual traumas, violations, abuse, witnessing a father abuse the mother. I mean, those are over and above, or seeing somebody being killed, or whatever it is. So not only do we have the natural life things that happen that just happen in ignorance, but we're dealing with sometimes much deeper issues of trauma. So these emotional wounds go in to the subconscious mind.
Right.
So it's different than talk therapy, yes?
Absolutely. A talk therapy will get you to talk about your issues and maybe bring to remembrance some issues in your life. But this particular neurophysical reprogramming, that the protocol of this, gets to the core. It gets to the issues of what is going on with the child, but what their belief about themselves is, how they see themselves, like I said. But it's they start to get in touch with what happened to them, where it was that someone said something or someone reacted to something. It's all about that core belief in their subconscious. And with that identity that they have taken on, they walk in that throughout their whole lifetime. In every situation, they come into it with that identity, that person. They react to it from that point of view.
So, being that I know that you've, over the years, dealt with hundreds and hundreds of people now, some of the core things, again, if someone believes that they are unloved, then they continue on a subconscious, because nobody consciously wants to draw circumstances into their life that would continue to validate the fact that they're unloved, or they're used, or they're worthless, or they'll never amount to anything, or they were unwanted. I mean, there's just so many core beliefs that can happen. And some of it's true and some of it can be perceived because sometimes parents do things in ignorance.
Right. Absolutely. That's what it's about, is perception. So it's what they perceived. So a child, let's say a child can be an abused child, or an incident can happen, and if a parent didn't react or protect them or come to their rescue or fight for them, that child is going to grow up believing that they don't have enough value for them to have happened. So something is the parent may not have handled it in the right way, but
that's life.
It's the way the child saw it.
Right.
So it's about perception. So we're dealing with perception here. When we're getting to the core, when we're working with the emotional issues, it's about their perception. And a lot of it can be very wrong. But it doesn't matter. It's what they believe. So it's changing that belief into making it into a positive and moving past that, letting go of it, not having that as baggage per se.
So let's say you have a child and they really were abused. I mean, maybe they're emotionally and psychologically and physically abused and called terrible names and shoved into closets and corners and beaten with hairbrushes and straps and belts, and that's definitely going to leave a scar.
Oh, definitely.
So, but if something happens, let's say you're like the middle child who somehow gets forgotten and left out, and then that can affect their whole life. But what you're doing is you're bypassing the conscious mind.
Right.
And you're using triggers. And will you talk to us about the triggers that you use to go, to the best of your ability, that you go in there to bypass the conscious mind, get down into the subconscious, so the root of what's really driving that person to allow repetitive cycles into their life that continue the beating down process till sometimes there's almost nothing left.
Right. Well, let's talk about the cycle, since we're talking about abuse, because this is a cycle. When children are abused, they end up drawing this back into their life again, because that's what they believe they deserve. So let's say, like, I've dealt with a lot of abused women because I am the counselor for Safe Passage who deals with domestic violence. And over the years, this is what I've seen over and over again. They keep drawing this same person back into their life, not knowingly. Obviously, they don't want another abuser, but they end up with the same thing. And sometimes it starts in childhood by their being abused by their father. So let's say a girl, a child, this is what they see as the way a man is, and they keep drawing this particular personality back into their life again. So we have to break that. So they're no longer in that same cycle. But speaking of the children, that has to be broken too, because they've seen the abuse. So when you've experienced it with watching your mother be abused, or seeing your father be angry or yelling, or emotional abuse, then that's embedded in you. And so later on in life, that's the kind of situation you draw into your life.
So you were talking about if a girl, because it happens to boys and girls.
And boys. It's everyone.
And we grow up into men and women,
Of
and it
course.
affects the children. So we're talking about everybody. This is not
Everyone.
just women.
Of course.
But I know that it affects the sexes differently.
Mhm.
So I know for the women with the emotional identity, it's not that they just draw the situation into their life, but what happens is, my understanding too, is that they develop personality patterns, and a person out there, let's say, who is a predator and who might be an abuser, will see something in the makeup of that person which makes it easier for them to perhaps dominate and overcome them, because it's a learned conditioned
That's right.
response to the abuse. Would you share a little bit of what you've seen with that?
Well, I think that, like you said, they are kind of like magnets drawn to each other. And an abuser can see something within a victim. I'm going to use the word victim because that's what they were as children. They've been victimized. And although they're trying to get out of that situation and move forward, that abuser sees, it's almost like you have a neon sign on your forehead, They recognize this. They recognize things, and they end up together again. It's amazing how this happens from one to the next to the next.
So if someone's identity is in worthlessness, then they don't feel important enough to establish boundaries in their life. So if that were intact and healthy, they probably wouldn't even have let that person into their sphere.
No, they would have known right away how to handle a situation or to recognize certain red flags.
Yes.
Because there are red flags that most women ignore, and men too.
Mhm.
You see, we're talking about human beings here, and men have gone through abuse and have things in their life, and they need healing too.
Yes.
The abuser needs healing.
So what do you think are attitudes that people need to either let go of or adopt regarding emotional healing? Because sometimes that can be a scary territory, because that's the core of really who you are. We can cover it up with education and who we hang out with and what we drive and the clothes that we wear. But that's really where you live, is
Right.
down there in that subconscious emotional realm. And that can be scary, I guess, to do. So people probably have belief systems that they need to either adopt or let go. What would that be?
Well, I think that parents especially, and society, needs to understand that as children are growing up, that these things are being embedded in them. These things that are being said, things that are being done to them, whether they're getting the attention or they're not getting the attention, all these things are paramount in their growth and what they believe about themselves. And so I think that we should just kind of, as a society, start to look at the way our children are being brought up and how they're being taught about themselves. You know, that to me, that's so important, because this is, and I've learned this through dealing with these women and understand every time it goes right back to childhood and what their belief about who they were, how they were treated, way their parents thought of them, whether they even felt that they were wanted.
Right.
You know, so many times they felt, I felt like I wasn't wanted. I didn't belong. I felt different. You know, these are all such hurt, such pain in people. And then once we get to that point, we change that. I mean, they just start brand new.
Right. Coming back from Peru, working with the women down there, and this is global. I mean, because with Safe Passage and affiliates that are connected, women have typically been considered a second-class citizen in most countries of the world, and this country definitely being the best, and yet we have a lot of problems here in this country. So women, I think, at the core, are not feeling as important to begin with, and if there was an education, the son got it instead of the daughter. I mean, we've made improvements, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is across the board, but this is still something that is alive and well, and so women tend to take the blame for things going on in a relationship, and they will allow the situation to perpetuate rather than drawing the line and saying, no, you will not treat me this way.
Exactly.
I am a person.
Right.
I have an identity. So talk a little bit about identity, because identities are a huge part of this for both sexes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the identity is, and the reason we call it an identity is because it's what we have perceived ourselves to be, and we end up either walking in low self-esteem, lack of confidence, being stuck, can't move forward. There's so many different things, and so we call it an identity. And that is formed, like I said, from childhood mostly, or it can come at any part of time in your life. You know, it depends on how you take it in and how you've absorbed that into your life. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay.
Basically, we're talking about an emotional identity. I mean, we can identify with what we do, and the work and where we live, and where we've traveled to, and the people we hang out with. But it's really not the truth. It's a kind of deceptive, because the truth, I always tell my friends when they get married, I said, you're not marrying the person that you see, you're marrying the unseen person that maybe you haven't met yet, that only comes out in time, because that's where they really live. It's going to be in those places of those wounds and those hurts that we do a great job of masking over and hiding, and it takes a great deal of energy to suppress all of that.
And speaking of suppression, this is the thing that we do, is we suppress these emotions. And when we have anger and resentment and a lot of these different issues from childhood because of the way we were treated and what we believe. These are things that cause issues with our health. And as we've been listening to all day on this program about health, how important it is, all the vitamins and the nutrition. I'm a naturopath, so I'm very into all that and understand that how important it is. But the emotions are also affect all your organs and affect your health. And if you still have these emotions inside of you, it doesn't matter how much good nutrition you have and how much exercise you do. If you don't heal your emotions, then you are going to have weakened organs. You're going to have anger, which relates to your liver.
Okay.
And resentment, which relates to gallbladder.
Okay.
So there's so many different things that affect. Now, women, lots of times that are abused, have learned to just turn off, and they don't deal with their emotions. They suppress them. And then women start to have female problems because that is an emotion which is called unresponsive, and you just don't deal with things. So eventually you have to, because it does come into that realm.
Eventually we have to deal with everything. Kind of a metaphorical situation, but it's true. I have a friend who had a high toxicity level in his body, and it got to such a point, eventually it all erupted on the surface of his body. He became very, very ill, and the toxins had to come out.
Right.
So these emotions at some point have to come out. So it can be perhaps in a nervous breakdown they can come out, or they can come out in cancer.
Absolutely.
And different illness. I do know a man who had every reason to have a lot of resentment in his life, and his gallbladder exploded. Things
There
like
you
that.
go.
And I see people who have swollen livers these days and all kinds of problems. And what you're telling me is that bitterness and anger are at the root of all. And I know bitterness is for cancer, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Bitterness will cause the environment for cancer to thrive in because of the acidity, of this.
Oh, so the bitterness actually causes an acidosis reaction in the body that needs to be alkalized. So we're talking about it's going to create chemical changes in the body, in the brain, in the blood, and the blood has to stay pH, but there's going to be other chemicals that are in there that actually are a breeding ground then for cancer.
Yes, and it takes so much emotion or so much energy to hold on to these negative emotions, and that's what they are.
So when somebody finally is able, and we're going to talk about that process in a moment here, release these negative emotions, it seems like there's a lot of energy freed up now for the creative process of life.
Yes.
And restored and renewed relationships and taking care of your health and...
Yes, it's like they're brand new. It's people describe it as things being lifted off of them. They feel lighter. They feel, they just start dealing with life. Lots of times they're walking around in a fog and they don't know why. They're kind of in a bondage to this. And once they're freed up from that, they're able to move forward and, live a happy, healthy life. And so they're able to, they're not stuck with this stuff.
Right. So these are the people that bounce out of bed in the morning now because they're all freed up versus the other one that says, hey, it's time to wake up.
A lot of times they don't even want to get up.
Yeah. I was watching something on the internet about this woman who just sleeps all day long. It's not that she's an overeater. She's just not facing life.
Right.
So there's obviously some huge trauma that's in there.
Right. A lot of the women that I've dealt with have come to Safe Passage, and they're so depressed they don't want to leave their room. I mean, they're just they are in terrible shape as far as their emotions are concerned. And within a short time, they're up and out, and their kids are so happy. Their family sees such a difference. I mean, this is just really an amazing protocol that I have learned and that I've adapted to my practice, and I'm just so grateful for it.
Let's talk about the combat vets right now.
Okay.
Because this is a huge issue, and we have a lot of returning, both men and women, with maladies, and we've talked about the fact that basically they have to forego their identity and take on an identity of a trained killer to fight war.
Correct.
That's the reality of war.
It is.
And now they're coming home, and you don't just jump back into being the husband and the dad, and all of a sudden you're a corporate employee in a suit. It's like, no, that's not what's happening. How can we help, or how can you help combat vets, both men and women? And many of these people that we're talking about also have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so grateful to them, our veterans, for the sacrifice that they've given to our freedom, to keep us free and for our nation. And it is a sacrifice because they sacrifice who they were when they left, because they'll never be the same. But there is that same kind of healing that can transpire. It's a matter of just identifying, going through the process, and being able to change that, being able to change from who they were and walk in who they want to be. It's a choice. You see, this is a choice. They choose their own identity. They choose what they want to be. And they heal. This is about healing. That's the point, healing emotionally.
So this helps the combat vet to reintegrate who they are and to be able to eliminate now the toxic identities and emotions. I mean, just the fear. If you can imagine having to pick up a gun and kill people, and bombs going off and cars exploding on the road and limbs flying every place. And I mean, I know some of the gals that come back, their hair falls out, their cycles stop. I mean, they're really pretty physically and emotionally messed up.
This, as you can see, all this physical is all emotional. You see, it all has to do with the emotions.
So to the combat vets out there, we're speaking to you today. And my heart is really for you. It always has been for the combat vets out there. And for single moms, I kind of put them in the same category. If you've been a single mom out there, you had to let go of your identity too and take on a role and fight a different type of a war. Even though you haven't had to pick up a gun, you had to pick up other things and forget your own life and care for those children that are in your charge. So they wind up many times just at the very end of this, with post-traumatic stress and exhausted and an adrenal shutdown.
Well, we see that diagnosis in a lot of the women that come to us, at the charity, at Safe Passage. They have that, they've been in such situations. I mean, when you're in a violent situation with your husband or your boyfriend or your family member, I can't say.
It's like a war.
It's like a war, yes.
It is.
It's like a domestic war.
Yes, it is. It's a domestic war. No, it truly is. It's a domestic war.
We can't really compare it with being, in the situation that our vets have been in. But it's still a hard thing to deal with. And I first experienced this myself in a situation where I had someone immediately come at me from the side, and I was right back to my situation that I had experienced.
So that's a PTSD, when there's a trigger, and you feel like you're fine until there's a trigger that comes and takes you right back to the moment where the trauma.
And I was shocked. I was shocked that had happened to me. But then it made me realize I needed to take care of that. I needed to heal through that process, and have. But yes, I totally understand.
Well, the domestic war can be real because sometimes you have a gun pulled on you. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. It's not just like the emotional abuse is terrible, but there's a reality of people stabbing you and throwing gasoline on you and lighting you on fire. That's a war.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about teen challenges and teen issues, because when children are subjected to the emotional traumas, and as a child it doesn't really begin to it does manifest, but as they go into puberty and other things begin to kick in, we see a lot of flare-ups and things that are happening in the lives of teens. We may have to hold that thought here.
Okay.
But you get the idea here. Linda, what I'd like you to do is tell people how to get a hold of you.
Okay. Well,
and then you can talk about the teen issues.
Yes, they can go to my website, and it's Safe Passage. SafePassageLives.org is the organization, and my personal one is Perfect Image Health.
Perfect Image Health. And that's perfectimagehealth.com?
Yes.
And is there an email they can reach you at, or a phone
Linda,
number?
perfectimagehealth.com.
Okay, so you'll find everything on her website that you need to find. Perfect Image Health.
Yes.
So again, if you've got childhood traumas, teenage issues, combat vets, anything like that, they want to contact you.
Okay.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you. And thank you for being with us today on Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, where we are more than just talk. We look forward to seeing you next week on Here's to Your Health. Join us at 11:30 on Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane on LA Talk Live. Have a great day and a great week. We really are happy you were able to join us for this whole wonderful episode of guests that we had today. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Hey, everybody.